I'm playing Marvel Legends. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 226 Exchange of Information. As if thinking of something, Marfa immediately opened the system interface. Main quest. Quest content: plunder the energy of the MCU world. Quest reward: return to the original world and revive the host's parents. Quest description: this is an equal transaction. Resurrect parents. Seeing this, Marfa was stunned for a moment. His hands began to tremble subconsciously. Unexpectedly. Why was Marfa so decadent before he crossed over? Wasn't it because his parents died in an accident? Now he can revive his parents. What could be more exciting than this for Marfa? Fellow villager, fellow villager. Chenglong saw Marfa standing there in a daze, his eyes red, his hands shaking uncontrollably, and he couldn't help but feel puzzled. Oh. Sorry, what you said just now reminded me of some things before crossing over. The amount of information you gave me is too huge, I have to sort it out carefully. Marfa said apologetically, and then ignored Chenglong and thought about it on his own. Now, it is about the resurrection of his parents, so Marfa can no longer be as lazy as before. As the system description says, this is a deal. Marfa helped the legendary world plunder the willpower of the Marvel world, and the legendary world used the willpower plundered by Marfa to help Marfa revive his parents. Of course, this deal is not what the system says is equivalent. At least in the distribution of willpower, the legendary world definitely accounts for the majority. Another thing that deserves Marfa's attention is the way to obtain willpower. According to Chenglong, he is like a virus, parasitic in the Marvel universe. As long as Chenglong survives for one day, there will be a steady stream of willpower from Marvel to the Jackie Chan Adventures world. Obviously, the world consciousness of the Jackie Chan Adventures world is a complete lazy fish. In contrast, the world consciousness of the legendary world is much more radical. The most obvious manifestation is the kill reward in various tasks. According to the law of conservation of energy, every superhero in the MCU is the protagonist. In layman's terms, it is luck. Take Tony as an example. The original storyline of Tony cost the MCU 100 points of willpower. Because of Marfa's intervention, Obadiah became stronger, and the MCU had to give Tony more luck to ensure that the story itself was not affected too much, and finally correct the plot. In this way, the part of the willpower consumed by the MCU will be intercepted by the legendary world. Similarly, according to the original plot, Tony had iterated the iron armor to Mark 50 in Avengers 3, but now, the Mark series has only been iterated to number 10, and Tony has given up and started to study magic. In this way, the willpower allocated to the remaining 40 generations of armor was extracted by the legendary world, and in order to ensure that Tony is the protagonist, the MCU had to give him additional willpower to make him achieve corresponding achievements in magic. In this way, it is understandable that the system rewards are very few after the big villains such as Dr. Lizard, Kingpin, Electro, and Flash, who did not exist in the original plot, are killed. After all, the MCU didn't put too much willpower on them. It was only because of their birth that the MCU was passively extracted a small amount of willpower by them. Therefore, when Marfa killed it, the willpower that could be plundered was also extremely limited. After some speculation, Marfa roughly understood this unscrupulous system of his own. In short, if the world of Jackie Chan Adventures is described as a moderate faction, then the legendary world is a radical faction. It requires Marfa to constantly make things and constantly subvert the plot. It is best to directly cut off its original development route like Tony, forcing him to change his development route. Just like some online writers, it doesn't matter what the quality of the book itself is, as long as the popularity is enough, it's okay to make a quick buck. As for how many words the book has, whether it is finished or unfinished, it doesn't matter, just open a new book. Jackie Chan Adventures world is more like those authors whose works are very ordinary, popular, and have ordinary income. As long as there is a bite to eat, it doesn't matter how much, and they will never give up until the book is finished. After sorting out all his thoughts, Marfa also clarified the next plan. In short, just do something crazy. So, Chenglong, what are your plans next? The room was silent for a long time, and finally Marfa spoke up, breaking the silence. Plans? I should ask you this question. You have watched 2 more movies than me. Obviously, Changlong planned to see what Marfa thought first. The information has been shared, so the rest is their own plans. Just as Marfa did not trust Changlong, Changlong could not be completely unreserved about Marfa. At least he did not mention that he arranged 2 Spider-Men, nor did he mention that he fooled Carlton Drake of the Life Fund to launch Life 1, let alone. In short, it is best to listen more and talk less at this time. How could it be me? You have lived hundreds of years longer than me, and you came earlier than me, so you should have planned it long ago. Although Marfa is not as old as Changlong, he is not a rookie. Whether it is an enemy or a friend, we have to see what Changlong thinks first. If Changlong wants to maintain the established plot of Marvel, Marfa may have to fight him. This is why Marfa didn't tell him the plot of Avengers 4. If you say that, we can't talk. You must know that in this vast universe, only we are truly the same kind of people. We have the same goal, which is to not be in that 50%. Only by surviving can we collect more willpower and have the hope of going back or dominating this universe. Changlong sighed and said righteously. Huh. Not in that 50%? Does it matter? As long as I don't make trouble, even if I am in that 50%, what does it matter? Anyway, I can be resurrected. Moreover, Marfa believes that even if he really did something and affected the trajectory of the plot, the world consciousness of the MCU will use willpower to fill this gap and forcibly correct the plot. Okay, since you said so, let's not hide it. I don't know what you think about the Infinity Stones. Marfa asked indirectly. Infinity Stones? S.H.I.E.L.D. has the Cosmic Cube. You are a S.H.I.E.L.D. member. It shouldn't be difficult to get it. The Eye of Agamotto is in Kamartaj. With her strength, it's probably difficult to take it from the Ancient One. But since you have arranged for Tony to go to Kamartaj, I think you should have already made a plan. As for the Mind Scepter, we have to wait for the plot of Avengers 1. Loki is just a fake. I can easily snatch things from him. As for the ether particles, the cosmic orb, and the soul stone, I'm afraid there is really no way. When Peter Quill was taken away by Yondu Udanta, I thought about whether to follow Yondu, so that I could have contact with the soul stone and the cosmic orb, but there were too many variables, and I hadn't obtained the power of the blue curse. For the sake of safety, I gave up in the end. Changlong is worthy of being an old man who has lived for hundreds of years. According to the information in his hands, he has been paying close attention to all the Infinity Stones that can be touched. In his opinion, as long as Thanos loses even one, the snap will be impossible. Then why don't you get the Cosmic Cube in your hands before S.H.I.E.L.D.? As long as you hold on to the Cosmic Cube, Thanos will never succeed. Marfa asked. Impossible. I once came into contact with a Red Skull, John Schmidt. I also had the opportunity to get the Cosmic Cube in my hands. But it's useless. With my current strength, I can't destroy the Cosmic Cube at all. And my storage space can't accommodate any Infinity Stones. The most important thing is that my power conflicts with the Infinity Stones, and the horse spell will repel all external energy, so I can't use the Cosmic Cube at all. If this thing falls into my hands, the only result is that Thanos will point the spearhead at me. I don't want to die so early. Good guy. Marfa called out in his heart. Unexpectedly, Changlong had already come into contact with the Cosmic Cube. Like Changlong, Marfa's storage backpack cannot store Infinity Stones. But Marfa can use the power of the Cosmic Cube. Even if he takes a step back, as long as he masters the Cosmic Cube, the worst thing he can do is run away. Before the Time Stone fell into Thanos' hands, Thanos could not do anything to Marfa, who had the Space Stone. But what Marfa did not expect was that Changlong actually regarded Tony as his own. Did Tony go to Kamartaj just to steal the Eye of Agamotto for him? This idea seems good. Can you tell me why you control the armor to attack the army base? Thinking of this, Marfa asked immediately. Marfa has always been suspicious of Changlong's mysterious operation. There's nothing I can't say. First of all, Tony Stark, you've given him 2 wives, how can he listen to your orders and lurk in Kamartaj? I wanted him to be wanted by the United States, and then Tony would definitely entrust his 2 wives to you, so that it would be easier for you to control him. Secondly, Stark Industries is mainly located in the United States. As long as he breaks up with the United States, or even becomes a world-famous terrorist, he can only hide in Kamartaj. There will be more opportunities to help you steal the Eye of Agamotto. Thirdly, don't you know? General Ross used your cells to strengthen Bronski, And now he is just a drag before the Chunin exam. Hundreds of clones are just a matter of eating more food. Such an existence has too many uncertainties. To be honest, I don't understand it. I'm wholeheartedly helping you, why are you meddling? Chapter 227 Avengers. Stunned, this time Marfa was really dumbfounded. Who would have thought that Changlong's arrangement was for himself? What a huge misunderstanding. Didn't Tony Stark arrange an undercover agent next to Ancient One? Of course, if you really follow Changlong's train of thought and use Pepper and Hill to threaten Tony, it is conceivable that Tony will definitely risk his life to steal the Eye of Agamotto. But the question is, what happens next? What if Ancient One comes to you? This is the treasure of the sect. No matter how generous Ancient One is, he can't say that he will keep things quiet for the sake of Marfa and Tony. So how could Changlong not think of this? Did he really miss it, or did he have another purpose? The initial shock disappeared at this moment. Looking at Changlong again, Marfa couldn't help but feel that the person in front of him might not be simple at all. After all, he is an old monster who has lived for hundreds of years. If it were a pig who had lived for so long, he would probably not be so stupid. But now is not the time to overturn the table. As far as we can see, at least on the surface, the two of them have a common goal, plundering the willpower. Maybe you misunderstood. Tony's trip to Kamartaj was not arranged by me, but by Ancient One, who took the initiative to find Tony. As for the reason, I haven't figured it out yet. And what you did is equivalent to alerting the enemy. It will be more difficult to deal with Bronsky later. Marfa took a deep breath and said, more difficult? That may not be the case. Do you know that Bronsky has joined S.H.I.E.L.D. now? Marfa. What the hell? Bronsky joined S.H.I.E.L.D.? Seeing that Marfa was hesitant to answer, Changlong continued. Nick Fury is determined to form the Avengers. Now, you, Captain America, Black Widow, Hawkeye, Splinter, Bronsky, and Spider-Man, who is expelled from S.H.I.E.L.D., Toby, there are 6 of them. If you add Quicksilver and the Witch, you can barely form a team. Changlong said slowly. Don't even think about it. My brother. I mean Pietro and Wanda won't agree to join the Avengers. Marfa subconsciously called out his brother. Although it has only been about 2 years since he traveled through time, the Maximov family treats him completely like a family. In them, Marfa felt a lost family affection. Deep in his heart, he has already replaced himself with the identity of Marfa Maximov. The first generation of Avenger members, the Hulk, Captain America, Iron Man, Hawkeye, Black Widow, and Thor, are only 6 people, but now, even if Andrew and Tony are not counted, they can barely make up 8 people. Do you think Black Sauce Egg will have no idea? In addition, are you too deep into the role? You are just a traveler. The Maximov family only has 2 children. Remember, there are only 2. Changlong said in a clear voice. This seemingly unintentional sentence sounded so harsh in Marfa's ears. Yes. After all, he is just a traveler, but he just occupied Marfa's body. If they knew that their child, their brother, was actually just an outsider. Thinking of this, Marfa felt an inexplicable pain in her heart. Only me, I am your fellow countryman, I am the person closest to you in this world, the one you should trust the most. Changlong immediately replied. Let me slow down. I mean, you are right, but the matter of willpower is too involved, we still have a lot of time, I want to think about it carefully. After that, Marfa did not wait for Changlong to answer, and directly used the teleportation ring to return to legendary technology. Yes, it is legendary technology. In the past, whenever Marfa went out, he usually went home first. Perhaps for Americans, the concept of home is not very clear. Because once children become adults, they will leave their parents and work hard on their own. In some states, children even need to pay for meals when they go home to eat. But Sokovia is different. As natives of Sokovia, the Maximov family has a much clearer concept of home than Americans, but it is far less than that of China. As a great country with a long history, filial piety and family affection have been placed in a very important position since ancient times. Therefore, the Chinese people's attachment to home is unmatched by any other country. Not to mention the distant past, after a young couple gets married, just where to spend the New Year's Eve every year is a matter of life and death. P.S. Are there people like lobsters? And Marfa naturally inherited this from the Chinese. Therefore, after going out, going home to report safety to his parents has long become a common thing for him. But now, Marfa did not go back. Wanda and Pietro are Marfa's brothers and sisters, not his. Django and Natalia are Marfa's parents, not his. Marfa's parents are on Earth, waiting for him to resurrect. After 2 years of traveling, this is the first time that Marfa misses the old world so much, and the first time that he misses his deceased parents so much. I want to save them. I want to go back. This thought kept lingering in Marfa's mind at this time. Master, Clark is here. Adam's words interrupted Marfa's thoughts. Clark? Oh, you mean Coulson? Leave him alone for a while. I'm not in the mood. Marfa said. Okay, Master. I'll let him wait at the door. Adam was absolutely obedient to Marfa's request, whether it was right or wrong. Forget it, let him in. After all, he was a boy who brought wealth. Marfa thought about it and sat up and said. A moment later, Clark walked in with a flattering smile on his face. Brother Marfa, I finally meet you. You don't know that it is so difficult to enter the door of your legendary technology. Brother Marfa? Marfa heard this and looked up at Clark. He didn't recognize the wrong person. How could a good principal have a what in his brain? If you have something to say, just say it. Marfa was still trapped in his heart at this time. He was not in a good mood and said in a cold tone. I came to you for 3 things. First, the director intends to set up a team independent of S.H.I.E.L.D., called the Avengers, mainly to deal with superpower incidents and unknown external forces. You are a S.H.I.E.L.D. level 9 agent and a superpower, so he thought of you first. Great. Clark, the lackey, even used honorifics. Is this still the principal I know? But why set up the Avengers now? Marfa frowned and thought. But soon, Marfa figured out the reason. Pierce used his power to forcibly take the cosmic cube from Black Egg, which obviously aroused Black Egg's vigilance and dissatisfaction. S.H.I.E.L.D. is ultimately restricted by the Security Council. Although it does not belong to any country, it is restricted by many countries because of the nature of the Security Council. In this way, the United States, as a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, can naturally indirectly influence S.H.I.E.L.D. This is obviously not what Nick Fury wants to see. More importantly, including the Black Widow, Hawkeye and Marfa, all the agents have done something out of the ordinary, and their identities are too sensitive. This is not a problem in the long run. And the newcomer Stephen Browns originally belonged to the US military. If they were recruited into SHIELD, wouldn't it be a blatant fight with the United States? In addition, if I guessed correctly, Tony Stark is still on the list of recruits of Black Studeg. As a Jebel, Tony's identity is also sensitive, not to mention that the iron armor he built just destroyed half of the US Army base. Even if someone else is behind the scenes, Tony can't get away from it. Under many reasons, it has become inevitable to pull a team independent of SHIELD. What else do you have to say in one breath? After thinking everything through, Marfa said with a slight smile on his face. Secondly, I hope Pietro and Wanda can join the Avengers. I even have nicknames for them, the Flash, the Scarlet Witch. How about it? Isn't it very domineering? Flash. Lightning. Man. Damn. Clark, tell me the truth, are you a spy sent from the next universe? Marfa thought secretly in his heart. Finally, you also know that the director is an honest man with little money in his pocket, and Tony can't find anyone recently. And to set up the Avengers, it takes a sum of money. After all, you are the helmsman of legendary technology. Just scrape out a little from your teeth, not too much, $50 million is enough. Clark rubbed his hands and said. Oh. Coulson, you've changed. You're no longer my money boy. I mean, you're no longer my respected principal. I, Marfa Maximov, have never seen anyone as shameless as you in my life. Not only do you want me, but you also want my family, and even my money. Why don't you go to heaven? With your nerve, you're more than enough to stand shoulder to shoulder with the sun. Chapter 228 Hammer falls from the sky. Ahem, that's not what I said. The Avengers are committed to protecting the Earth. How many people envy you for being so powerful? Can you bear to see them living in dire straits? You must know that the greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. Clark persuaded with an elder's taste. Haha, the greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. I'm not Spider-Man. What's the use of telling me this? What's more, now even Spider-Man has become a gangster leader who collects protection fees and smuggles. Marfa thought secretly in her heart. No people, no money. You can say I'm selfish or unkind. In my eyes, My family is more important than anything else. Even if the lives of all the people in the world are added together, they are not as good as one of their hair," Marfa said in a firm tone. But immediately, Marfa was stunned. "Yes, after they know the truth, they may not necessarily regard me as a relative, but for me, they are relatives. This thing will not change. I don't expect anything in return from them, so why should I care about their attitude?" After thinking everything through, Marfa suddenly became clear. When he looked at Clark again, he felt much better. "Let's do this. I can sponsor part of the money, $20 million, and I will buy a piece of land in Georgia with mountains and rivers as the alliance base. You can do the rest yourself," Marfa said. Of course, Marfa didn't make such an arrangement on impulse. At first, Marfa thought about building the Avengers Alliance himself, so as to control it in his hands. But later, considering that people like Captain America would have their own subjective will even if they joined the Avengers, it would be difficult to control them. Therefore, this plan was abandoned by Marfa. As for why it was Georgia, we have to mention an extremely powerful company in China, SANY Heavy Industry. In the original plot, the Avengers' northern base was filmed at the factory of SANY Heavy Industries headquarters in the United States. And SANY Heavy Industries' main product, excavator. As the saying goes, if you ask for a high price, you should pay it back on the spot. Clark came here and never thought that Marfa would agree to all his requests. Now there is such a result, which is actually exactly what he expected. Are you really not going to consider it again? If you think Pietro and Wanda are not suitable, you can join the Avengers yourself. I can tell you that Captain America has awakened and he will join the Avengers later. He is the idol of the generation. Don't you want to get close to him and take a photo or something? Clark is a fan of Captain America, which has been mentioned many times in the original plot. But Marfa didn't expect that this guy would use this to tempt himself to join the Avengers. I'm not interested, but I do have to find time to go to the Trident headquarters. Director Fury still owes me an explanation for recruiting the Splinter. Marfa has never had a good impression of Nick Fury. On the surface, this man always says that he is for the safety of the world and believes that the Avengers can create miracles. In fact, he secretly uses the Cosmic Cube to study energy weapons. Especially in the Civil War episode of Captain America 3, the Avengers were trapped in the quagmire of the Sokovia Accords. Where was he when Wanda was under house arrest by Tony? Where was he when Natasha, Falcon, and Ant-Man were imprisoned? SHIELD was disbanded, so Nick Fury was no longer able to resolve the dispute for them? The most important thing is that Nick Fury knew about the Paperclip project. It is impossible to say that he knew nothing about the death of the Howards. After all, he was one of the founders of SHIELD, and as the director of SHIELD, would Nick Fury not have investigated the cause of Howard's death? In Marfa's opinion, he just didn't want Steve and Tony to fall out over this matter. Marfa didn't even know whether the current Nick Fury was himself or just a Skrull stand-in. Ding ding ding. Clark's cell phone rang, breaking the embarrassment of the scene just now. Clark held the phone, bowed slightly to Marfa, and then walked out of Marfa's office directly. Adam. Understood, Master. As soon as Adam finished speaking, the voice from Clark's phone appeared in Marfa's micro headset. Director, Marfa doesn't seem to be interested in your Avengers plan. It can even be said that he is a little disgusted. I will try to investigate the reasons behind this and give you a report later. Well, this kid, what about the money? $20 million plus a piece of land. Although it's a little less, it should be no problem to build a simple base. Did he say anything else? For example, Brodsky. You are really a prophet. Marfa just asked about this. I suspect that his reluctance to join the Avengers may have something to do with Brodsky. After all, anyone would feel uncomfortable seeing someone else having their own genes. Okay, let's stop here. I will find another way to solve this problem later. Now put down all the work at hand and go to New Mexico immediately. Just now, a hammer fell from the sky. Ha ha ha, Director, why are you making fun of me too? It's just a hammer. You won't let me run over and bring the hammer back for you. Haha, if you have that ability, I'd be happy to see it. That hammer is not simple, because the noise it made when it fell to the ground was too loud, and it has attracted a lot of attention. Now many people have gathered over there, but no one can move it at all. The crane can't do it either. I understand, Director. I'll go over right away, but please send me a team of agents so that I can control the situation. No problem, I'll send Sitwell and Barton to you, and another 20 people. You act according to the circumstances and make sure to find out the cause of this matter." Nick Fury on the other end of the phone delegated his authority. Clark was only a level 7 agent, and Hawkeye, Clinton Barton was level 8. It stands to reason that he had no authority to command Barton. But Barton was a combatant after all, and Sitwell and Clark were obviously better at this kind of work that required dealing with local officials and controlling the situation. "Director Fury, don't you have anything to say to me?" Marfa's voice came from the office. "Damn it, don't you know to find a safe place when you call?" Nick Fury cursed on the other end of the phone. "This is the territory of my legendary technology. There is no problem of insecurity, Mr. Director, don't you think so?" Marfa continued, her tone full of dissatisfaction with Nick Fury. Of course, only Marfa himself knew how much of it was true and how much was false. "Ha ha ha, Agent Maximoff, look at what you said. Although legendary technology is your personal property, you are a member of my shield. Of course, I trust you 100%. Nick Fury said. "Oh? Really? So you found a lot of sons for me? Do I have to thank you?" Marfa said in a somewhat cold voice. "Bronsky cares about the safety of the world. He takes the overall situation into consideration and joins the Avengers. This is a blessing for the people of the world. I know this is a bit unfair to you, but I hope you can give me a face and think of it as a consideration for the safety of the world. Don't bother him again. Well, this is a big hat. So looking for trouble with Bronsky is disregarding the safety of the world, and it means that I, Marfa, am not considering the overall situation, right? There is a Bronsky today, so will there be another Skibron tomorrow, and another Bugilans the day after tomorrow?" Marfa asked himself. He couldn't stay in legendary technology forever. Once he went out for action, he would inevitably leave some dandruff, broken hair and so on. And these may be collected by someone with ulterior motives. There are endless Sunzings, and Sunzings, and infinite nesting dolls. Who can stand it? It's very simple to solve this matter. Just kill Bronsky and make an example of him. If anyone dares to target Marfa or his family in the future, kill one if they come, and kill two if they come. Isn't this simpler than worrying all day about your fallen hair being used for experiments? Tell me, what do you want? As long as you can let Bronsky go, I think we can have a good talk. Chapter 229 Conditions. The director has done this. Nick Fury really feels that he is a failure. He is the king of agents. When did he fall to the point where he needs to bow his head to others? It's just that there is a saying that goes, the one who pays is the boss. $20 million is not a lot for Nick Fury, but it is not a small amount, not to mention there is a piece of land. Although Marfa did not say how big the land is, based on Nick Fury's understanding of Marfa, it must be not small. Even the land plus 20 million may far exceed Nick Fury's original idea. Now that the sponsor wants to explain, what else can he do? In fact, Marfa missed one point. Is Nick Fury really as clean-handed as Clark said, with no money at all? Otherwise, Nick Fury may not have money, but SHIELD has 10,000 ways to get money, and Nick Fury can perfectly launder it and put it in his pocket in the end. The reasons that Marfa could think of were certainly the main reasons why Nick Fury was eager to establish the Avengers, but another reason was Marfa itself. The existence of legendary technology made Nick Fury feel an inexplicable sense of unease. Let alone the medicine that can greatly increase the activity of cells and quickly heal the body, the game itself is a big problem. Is there no virtual reality technology in the world? It has long existed, but because the technology is not mature, the equipment is not only expensive, but also huge, and it is impossible to be civilianized. But for some special departments, we must say agent training, aerospace technology. Using virtual reality projection technology can undoubtedly greatly improve efficiency and reduce costs. Not to mention the FAR, like Natasha and Barton, they each have a dedicated device at the Trident headquarters. After all, they are the ace agents of SHIELD and deserve this investment. But other people don't have this treatment. For this reason, countries around the world are particularly concerned about this technology, openly or secretly. The annual research and development funds invested in this technology by the United States alone are in the billions. But what about Marfa? What does he have? In Nick Fury's eyes, what does he have? He is just a student who has not even graduated from high school. The so-called atom artificial intelligence alone is probably eliminated by Tony Stark. However, Legendary technology has actually overcome the technical problems that have hindered the whole world. First, biotechnology, and then electronic network technology. Where did Marfa get these things? Excluding all the impossible, the only explanation is that Marfa has hooked up with aliens. Unlike others, Nick Fury has seen aliens, whether it is the Skrulls or the Kree. Their civilization is far beyond the current Earth. Since Marfa can dedicate these technologies to the Earth, it is naturally a good thing. At least it proves that his heart is on the Earth. Even so, Nick Fury is not completely assured of him, so he asked Clark to come to test Marfa's attitude under the guise of recruiting. The result is not good, but not bad. At least Marfa gave money. It proves that although he doesn't like the Avengers, he actually agrees with the responsibilities of the Avengers. That's enough. Nick Fury can easily solve the remaining funding gap. But after all, he is the financial sponsor, and he still has to give face. He can't tell Marfa frankly that it doesn't matter whether there's money or not, I'm just testing you. But the real problem lies here. Since Marfa can contact aliens, what about others? What if the other party is different from Marfa and has great ambitions and wants to do something to the Earth? Nick Fury understands the principle of being prepared for the worst and being prepared for the worst better than anyone else. Otherwise, in the original plot, he would not have been able to study the cosmic cube privately. In a sense, Nick Fury can be said to have a high degree of ideological consensus with Tony Stark, who created Ultron. Of course, Marfa didn't know all this. It is impossible to think that the black brain egg has such a strong ability to make up for the brain. It is even more impossible to know that if he hadn't just let go and agreed to inject capital into the Avengers, he might have been on the blacklist of the black brain egg. Not to cause trouble for Bronsky? Sure, then you should announce the real cause of death of Howard and his wife. Don't tell me that you, the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., don't even know this. Marfa said after a moment of hesitation. As the saying goes, you have to pick the right sheep to get the wool, and get it to the death. Did Nick Fury want to conceal this matter so that Captain America and Iron Man can be a couple? I just want to make trouble. In short, if there is Captain America in the Avengers, there will be no Iron Man, and if there is Iron Man, there will be no Captain America. Counting Tony, Hulk, and even Thor if the plan goes well. The Avengers have 6 veterans, and now 3 of them are gone, which is a direct cut in half. Legend World swallowed this wave of wishes and probably rewarded itself with a monthly card. Maybe the version will be updated. Fire Dragon joint attack? Delighted. Marfa was still thinking about those things, while Nick Fury on the other side was not calm. What are you talking about? The Howards died in a car accident. This is the official report. If you think there's a problem, I still have the archive of the newspapers and magazines at that time. I can send you a copy. Nick Fury said with strong suppression of shock in his heart. How long do you think you can keep this secret? Don't forget that Tony is studying at Kamar-Taj now. And Kamar-Taj happens to have a magic that can go back in time and see the past. So do you plan to wait for Tony to find out by himself, or do you plan to tell him in advance and earn a favor? Marfa said with a slight smile on his face. This scene was simply a refreshing view for Clark, who was standing aside. Although Clark didn't know what the two were talking about, Marfa gave him an extremely strange feeling at the moment. This is still the innocent and romantic one who asked for money from him all the time. Well, he seems to have never changed. Schoolgate is unfortunate. I didn't expect that my Midtown High School not only cultivated a gang leader, but also cultivated such a thing. There was silence on the other end of the phone for a long time. Obviously, Nick Fury was also calculating the gains and losses. Alice. Whatever. The truth will come to light after all. I will find a spy, clear all his files, and then announce to the public that he is the descendant of the remnant left by Hydra. Through his mouth, the things that happened back then will be made public. Well, he is indeed the king of agents. He considered all aspects in just a few seconds. If he directly came forward to reveal the truth, it would inevitably cause dissatisfaction among the people, especially the chaebols. Involving the former Big Jebel Howard Stark, this is a sensitive topic. The truth has been hidden for so many years, so what is the official going to do? What are they planning? This will undoubtedly increase the anxiety and panic of the chaebols. God knows if the next person to be killed in silence will be himself. And if these words come from the mouth of the descendant of the remnant of Hydra, it will be a completely different matter. Even after many years, S.H.I.E.L.D. has turned over the truth. Doesn't this prove that S.H.I.E.L.D. has all the means to reach the sky? In other words, this is also telling the chaebols that you are safe and no one dares to touch you. We can investigate the old cases that have been hidden for decades. Those who want to take advantage of you don't dare to do anything. The most important thing is that Nick Fury specifically pointed out a spy to take the blame. You know, any spy's identity information has been washed countless times. After the double insurance wash by S.H.I.E.L.D., let alone Jarvis, Marfa believes that even Adam will have almost no chance to find out anything. Okay, let's do it. In addition, I am very interested in the hammer you just mentioned. After all, I am also a level 9 agent. It's been a long time since I was assigned a mission. I feel annoyed when there is no mission, and I want to fight when I feel annoyed. What if I accidentally kill Bronski? Nick Fury. Cyrillic letter deck, damn it. It's endless, right? I'm not going to do it anymore, and you are addicted to blackmail, right? Of course, this kind of thing is just a thought in my mind. Clark, did you hear that? Agent Marfa is in charge of New Mexico's affairs, and you assist from the side. Clark, if you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 230 Mjolnir. New Mexico is a state with a relatively backward economy in the United States. Despite several major developments, it is still dominated by agriculture and mining. In the early years, the lack of water led to the lagging development of this land. However, the U.S. government has never stopped supporting New Mexico. The main reason is that the mineral resources underground in New Mexico are too rich. At this time, a small town near Old Bridge, New Mexico, ushered in an unprecedented lively scene. Old Lee, I heard that you can't even lift a hammer. What's going on? Can you still lift a stick? Your wife is angry. Do you want me to help? Bah. Old Wang, if you can lift it, go ahead and lift it. I won't say anything else. It's just a stick of a few centimeters. Just lift it casually. Guess what? What? That's a whole day. Oh. Good guy, don't brag like that. If you are so capable, why would your wife run to old Zhang's house every few days? In a small town, the streets and alleys are full of various discussions, and the topic they are discussing is undoubtedly the hammer outside the town. At first, everyone just went there to watch. But things are so weird, no one can really lift the thing. Whether it is a young and strong man or a muscular strong man. There was even an old man who drove a farm truck directly, but he couldn't drag the hammer away. The hammer, which seemed to weigh only a dozen or 20 pounds, was like a root in the ground. No matter how hard you pulled it, it would not move. Great. Word spread like wildfire. People from all over the surrounding area came. The merchants in the town were very happy. In recent days, the daily revenue has caught up with more than a week's revenue. Especially the tavern. It was crowded at this time, and everyone was bragging and talking nonsense. As for the location of the hammer, it was even more amazing. The gongs and drums were loud, the firecrackers were blasting, the red flags were waving, and there were crowds of people. Okay, the above are all water escape. Just as a group of people were pointing and talking at the man holding the hammer in the pit, a burst of car horns resounded throughout the town. Then 2 black cars were seen driving towards this side one after the other, and behind the cars were 2 semi-trailers. Squeak, the leading black car drifted beautifully and stopped in front of the huge pit. Then a man in a black suit, sunglasses, and with a hairline almost reaching his head got out of the car. There was no doubt that this man was Clark, who drove all the way from New York. Haha. I didn't expect you to be so coquettish at your age. You are old, but you are still drifting like a young man. Aren't you afraid of hurting your old waist? The voice arrived before the man arrived. A man also got out of the black car that followed, but he was different from the previous one. This man looked about 20 years old, with silver hair on his head, wearing casual clothes, but also wearing a pair of black sunglasses. The most important thing is that this man looks very handsome. He hasn't taken off his sunglasses yet, but a group of ruffians whistled at him. The man was so scared that he took a step back unconsciously, and an inexplicable tearing feeling was pressing on a certain part of his body. However, the next second, the man who got out of the car first waved his hand. In an instant, more than 20 agents with guns jumped off the semi-trailer and began to drive the crowd away without saying a word. Soon, Another dozen people got off the other semi-trailer and began to build a temporary camp. "Marfa, why don't you try it?" Clark pointed to the hammer in the pit and said half-jokingly, obviously wanting to see Marfa make a fool of himself. "Why don't you try it? You can't be impotent before you're even 50 years old." Clark, this bastard, who hangs out with Tony all day, didn't learn anything else, but he learned the skill of being vicious. But before they finished talking, they saw a man in combat uniform walking straight over. The man slung a bow and arrow in his hand over his back and grabbed the hammer handle without saying a word. Hey, there is no doubt that this person is Hawkeye Barton. He was red-faced at this time, as if he was constipated, and the veins on his hands were bulging. Those who didn't know thought he was in trouble. However, after persisting for 1 minute, Barton finally chose to give up. "I think this thing, I'm afraid only the green guy can lift it." Barton walked back to Clark and said, "Although he has not mutated, nor has he obtained any inheritance, and he doesn't have the money ability of Tony to make a battle armor, but when it comes to strength, Barton can proudly say that among ordinary people, few can beat him. Really? I can't see it. Maybe even Dr. Banner can't lift this thing." Marfa said meaningfully. Thor's hammer, also known as Mjolnir, is a magic weapon forged by the king of Nidavel, the dwarf king, for his heir by the god King Odin. The core of the hammer uses the core of a star that is about to be annihilated, so that it can accommodate super-large energy, and the hammerhead is made of Yoru metal, a specialty of Asgard, so that it can carry magic spells. As for the handle of the hammer, it is even more amazing. It was made by Odin from a branch of the World Tree, which gave Mjolnir the ability to control wind and thunder. It is worth mentioning that at first, Mjolnir was not actually given to Thor, but as a weapon for Odin's eldest daughter, the goddess of death Hela, to accompany her in the Battle of the Nine Realms. But Hela really doesn't like Mjolnir. It's easy to think about it. It's so eye-catching for a big girl to hold a hammer all day long. Until Hela's natal weapon Sword of the Night Sky appeared, Hela immediately abandoned this eye-catching thing without any nostalgia. This point is slightly mentioned in the plot, and the fact that Hela can ignore the rules and lift the hammer, or even crush it directly with her bare hands, shows the intricate relationship between Hela and the Meow Meow hammer. After that, Hela was sealed by Odin, and Thor became the heir. Odin then gave Mjolnir to Thor and asked the king of Nidavellir to recast it for him. Unexpectedly, Loki learned that his father was partial to him again, so he immediately started to mess it up. In the end, because of Loki, Mjolnir had an accident when it was recast, causing its handle to be much shorter. According to Marfa's guess, Loki's pair of daggers is likely to be made from the broken handle of the hammer. Marfa, who has read the original plot, naturally knows all this. Now it is just humiliating to contact Meow Meow Hammer. He doesn't think he can be a spare tire for the hammer like Captain America. Really not going to try. Clark looked at Marfa with a strange look on his face and said, "A combatant like Barton can't lift it, so naturally he, who is more of a civilian, can't do it." Clark is still very clear about this. But Marfa is a superpower. Although it is not clear how strong Marfa is, from the information collected, its physical defense is not much worse than that of the Hulk, not to mention that Marfa has the ability to control objects with telekinesis, and its strength is far beyond that of ordinary people. If Clark is asked who else he knows besides Banner can lift the hammer, the first person he thinks of is definitely Marfa. No need, but there is one thing you have to arrange immediately. Marfa pushed his sunglasses and said. Clark shrugged his shoulders after hearing this, and the meaning couldn't be clearer. The leader has given you full responsibility, so how can I say no? You immediately contact the spies in Old Bridge City and ask them to pay attention to the strange phenomena and unidentified people in Old Bridge City. Notify me as soon as they find anything. Marfa said in a deep voice. Question mark? Do you mean to leave? You don't want to watch the hammer? Do you have something else to do? Clark asked curiously. Can it grow flowers by looking at it? I'm going to find a girl. A girl who is scolded as heartless and ungrateful. As soon as the voice fell, Marfa returned to the car and disappeared from Clark's sight. Oh my god. I never knew he was into this. Has Tony really led him astray? Chapter 231 Jane Foster. Marfa certainly didn't follow Tony's lead as Clark thought. He was looking for Jane Foster, Thor's girlfriend in the original plot. This is an equally legendary Earth woman, even better than Carol Danvers in a sense. In the original plot, there was no mention of how Jane and Thor broke up. It was only from Thor in Avengers 4 that Jane was a heartless woman. Jane appeared in Thor 1 and Thor 2, and then she had no more roles. However, it is said that she will become the female Thor in Thor 4. From this point of view, perhaps the relationship between her and Thor is not as simple as Thor said. With Adam's help, it only took a few minutes to find Jane Foster. What's more, Jane was originally near Old Bridge City at this time, and it only took more than 10 minutes to drive there. Ding dong. The doorbell rang, and soon someone opened the door. Oh God! Handsome guy, handsome guy. The one who opened the door was Daisy, Jane's intern. She looks pretty, and most importantly, she is not younger than Wanda. Looking at the two rabbits shivering in front of her, Marfa felt offended. How could she shiver her rabbits in front of a strange man when she first met him? Excuse me, is this Miss Foster's house? Marfa asked politely. Of course, are you looking for her? I'm her assistant, Daisy Louise. You can call me Daisy. Come in and sit down. It's so hot outside, you must be thirsty. I'll pour you a glass of water. As she spoke, Daisy welcomed Marfa into the house. This is an extremely spacious single-family villa, which doesn't cost much in a place like New Mexico where the land price is cheap. But Marfa knew that this house was rented by Jane, and it could only be regarded as a temporary residence. After all, who made her an astrophysicist? She would go wherever it was convenient to observe, which has long become a habit in this industry. The room was rather messy. In addition to some equipment, there were bras, panties, socks everywhere. Obviously, looking at Daisy's busy tidying up, it was not difficult to guess that these were her personal belongings. The style is pretty good. Marfa teased. I'm so sorry. In fact, there are very few customers here. You know Jane is a very casual woman. She usually doesn't pay much attention to personal issues. Daisy said in a panic. She didn't notice that Jane behind her had already looked gloomy. Daisy, you'd better explain this clearly. When did I become a woman who doesn't pay much attention to personal issues? Jane's devilish and cold voice sounded in Daisy's ears, scaring her so much that she shivered unconsciously. What could be more panic-stricken than saying bad things about someone behind their back? And the key is that the bad things are false, and they happen to be heard by the person himself. Hello, I'm Jane Foster, may I ask who you are? Without paying too much attention to Daisy, Jane immediately set her sights on Marfa. What a handsome guy. It's a pity that he is too young and a little thin, not my type. Jane thought secretly in her heart. Let me introduce myself, Marfa Maximov, CEO of Legendary Technology. Marfa took out a business card from her pocket and handed it to Jane. Legendary Technology. Jane frowned, obviously a little unfamiliar. After all, she was absorbed in astronomy. How could she have time to understand those gossips? Pop! The sound of the cup breaking sounded, and the two looked in the direction of the sound, only to see Daisy, who was walking over with 2 cups of coffee at this time, was stunned. She didn't even notice that the coffee in her hand fell to the ground. Oh my God. Legendary Technology. Still the CEO. The next second, Daisy exclaimed, and then the whole person disappeared in front of the 2 people in an instant. When she appeared again, she was holding a silver-white helmet in her hand. Mr. Maximov, are you really the CEO of Legendary Technology? Daisy said excitedly, pointing to the helmet with the word dragon printed on it. Adam. Sir, at your service at any time. As Marfa finished speaking, Adam's voice immediately rang out from the helmet. This is the game elf Adam. This time, Daisy was completely convinced. As a game elf, Adam does not actually participate in the game content. He only reminds players to take a break, where the equipment is faulty, whether it needs to be charged, etc., or when not playing games. He can also act as a small elf to play songs, tell the time, etc. However, except for the owner of the game helmet himself, no one can talk to him unless the other party has absolute authority. And this so-called absolute authority, without a doubt, is exclusive to Marfa, the helmsman of Legendary Technology. In an instant, Daisy immediately turned into a little fangirl and rushed to Marfa holding the game helmet. Please sign for me, sign here. Daisy pointed to her game helmet and said. Well, I met a fan, what else can I do? Sign. After that, Marfa immediately picked up a marker from the table and wrote the 2 letters MF on Daisy's gaming helmet. Here too. As she spoke, she saw Daisy loosen her collar, then shrugged her 2 rabbits, pointed at her lining and said. This Enough. Daisy, get out of here. I want to talk to Mr. Maximov alone. This time, Jane was really angry. Although she didn't know legendary technology, she had seen Daisy playing games. To be able to make such a game device that was ahead of its time, she knew with her toes that legendary technology was not simple. Marfa, as the CEO of Legendary Technology, came to see her, so there must be something important. Maybe she could also raise some research funds along the way. But what about Daisy? This girl was actually seducing her god of wealth. Tisk, stingy. If it weren't for those credits, I wouldn't listen to you. The last sentence. Handsome guy, do you have a girlfriend? After that, Daisy straightened her chest and tried to make herself look more well. Just after saying this, a chill emanated from Jane. Slip away. Handsome guy, I'll treat you to dinner tonight. Before leaving, Daisy didn't forget to say this. I'm so sorry to have embarrassed you. This girl should be properly managed. Jane Foster said apologetically. It's okay. In fact, I have read your articles before. I think your arguments on some celestial issues are very interesting. So I want to join your research group temporarily for a few days. Just treat me as an amateur. Of course, maybe I can't help you with anything, but I can solve some funding problems for you. At least you can find a few more cute interns, right? Marfa smiled and took out a check for $5 million that she had prepared long ago from her pocket and put it on the table. I don't know when Marfa began to like money power. It has to be said that money can make people degenerate. But please emphasize the tone here, it feels so good to have money. 5 million. Seeing Marfa's generosity, even Jane was a little shocked. You know, the total value of all her research equipment is no more than $2 million. Marfa spent $5 million in one go, and the condition was just to join her project temporarily for a few days as an astronomy enthusiast. Bringing money into the team, that's a pity. I'm afraid Mr. Maximov will have to endure Daisy's constant harassment in the next few days. Jane smiled, but her hand calmly put the check into her pocket. Just call me Marfa. Daisy is actually very cute, isn't she? At least, we won't feel bored while waiting for observation. Chapter 232 Thor Odinson. Jane, what are you looking at? At night, on the outskirts of Old Bridge City, a motorhome just found an open space and parked there. Next to the motorhome, there was an astronomical telescope and some unknown data detection equipment. Marfa asked curiously, handing Jane a bottle of water. Look, that nebula, its movement trajectory is very unusual recently. I always feel that something is going to happen. Jane said with a worried look on her face. I already know. Daisy interrupted. Literally, oh. Marfa and Jane looked in the direction of the sound, but saw Daisy holding her mobile phone and taking pictures of Marfa continuously. People who didn't know her might think she was a nude photography enthusiast, not an intern in the Department of Astrophysics. Sucking the saliva that was about to fall to the ground, Daisy rolled her eyes at Jane. Hasn't this already happened? The domineering CEO turned into an astronomy enthusiast. The older leftover woman took the opportunity to seduce the handsome guy. Marfa. Jane. No, you said that a beautiful young girl, was placed in front of you. Why don't you just appreciate me and stare at Jane all day? Is my figure not as good as hers? Or is my technique not as good as hers? Daisy said as she straightened her proud chest, and then playfully pointed at the two shriveled bunnies on Jane's chest. Jane, how the hell did I become an older leftover woman? I'm obviously in my prime, okay? And you, do you understand the connotation? The inner woman is the most beautiful, and yours is at most a cow. P.S. There are no typos here, Jane thought secretly in her heart. Marfa, are you really not going to consider it? The sky is vast, the wilderness is vast, the car is next to you, and the beauty is in your arms. While speaking, Daisy did not forget to squeeze closer to Marfa, and her eyes were full of spring water, almost overflowing. He is handsome and rich, and most importantly, he is still young. Where can you find such a high-quality oxen? As long as you open your mouth casually, those coquettish bitches will line up to squeeze in. Just look at Tony Stark to know this. Instead of letting those coquettish bitches get away with it, why not seize the opportunity yourself? At this time, Daisy had already secretly sworn in her heart that she would definitely tire this ox out before Marfa left. It would be even better if she could bury a calf in the field. Go to school? Do a job? Just ascend to heaven on the spot? That? Daisy, I have a girlfriend. Marfa is not Tony. Although Daisy Louise's appearance is not inferior to Gwen Stacy, the two are not comparable. Gwen is a real academic master. Since the two of them confirmed their relationship, Gwen knew that Marfa was the mysterious boss of legendary technology. She immediately terminated the financial aid contract with Osborne Group and became a disciple of Bruce Banner, doing biological research while continuing her studies. Although Gwen needs to pay a considerable amount of liquidated damages, Gwen has never asked Marfa about money. And what about Daisy? She is just a poor student who needs to do internships with Jane to get graduation credits. More importantly, her shallow knowledge of astronomy and physics can't help Marfa at all. In a sense, Daisy is a vase. If she is like Tony, Daisy is indeed a good choice with an attitude of playing around, but if it is a soulmate, Daisy is obviously far from Marfa's standard. This is like those Cinderellas who dream all day and dream that the domineering president falls in love with them. They always think they look good and set their sights on the sky from the beginning. But they don't know that in the eyes of those so-called overbearing CEOs, Cinderella is just a plaything. Her face will age easily. How many years can she cultivate the best land? Without real talent and family background, how many Cinderellas can really walk to the end with the prince? It is precisely because Gwen knows this that after confirming her relationship with Marfa, she not only did not relax, but studied harder. Smart women know how to manage themselves. Appearance is just a stepping stone. If you only rely on a face, even if you marry into a wealthy family, you will most likely fail. Obviously, Daisy did not have such awareness at the moment. You have a girlfriend? What does it matter? You are not married. Even if you are married, you can still get divorced, right? Even if you don't get divorced, with your worth, it's not a big problem to have two women. Doesn't Tony Stark have two wives? Am I not beautiful? Or do you like older leftover women like Jane? Good guy. Daisy's words simply refreshed Marfa's three views. Two women and one husband. Sounds good, but Tony Stark is a lesson for us. Think about how Pepper and Hill quarreled all day long, and think about the scene of Tony looking at her with tears in his eyes every time. Marfa couldn't help but shiver. No, my kidneys are not as good as Tony's, and I can't cultivate two plots of land. Marfa rolled her eyes and said, "Kidneys, not good? Then wait a minute." After that, Daisy ran back to the RV, and after a while, she handed a box to Marfa. 1 bottle refreshes the mind, 2 bottles never get tired, 3 bottles make you immortal, kidney treasure, tastes great. Seeing Daisy's serious appearance of saying the advertising slogan, Marfa was stunned, and Jane was also stunned. Elvizakio saw it and called him an expert. Oh my god. How can there be such a ghost thing in my RV? Jane covered her slightly hot face and yelled. After Daisy's commotion, everyone lost interest in looking at the stars and the moon, and talking about poetry and life philosophy. They immediately packed their luggage and planned to go back to take a shower and sleep. Jane, in particular, felt so embarrassed that she even unconsciously increased the horsepower by dozens of horsepower when driving. Bang! At this moment, a black shadow fell from the sky and hit the RV directly. It happened suddenly, and Jane was immediately startled, and then she subconsciously braked. The whole person hit the steering wheel directly. Fortunately, although the rabbit is not big, it is still quite effective as a shock absorber, so she didn't suffer any injuries from the collision. Of course, although Jane's personality is a bit rebellious, she is not very courageous. It seems that she is not small, otherwise how could she dare to sleep with Thor, not afraid of losing control for a while, and being electrocuted and numb, burnt on the outside and tender on the inside? Oh God! Look at what you did. Daisy, who was in the co-pilot's seat, finally reacted at this time and opened the car door in a panic. We agreed in advance. This is all your fault. I told you not to drive while tired. There are thousands of roads, but safety comes first. Driving irregularly will bring tears to your loved ones. Stop it and get the first aid kit. Although Jane was panicking at this time, she still put the life of the person who was hit first. No need, just leave it to me. It's late at night, what if the other party is a scammer? Please give me this opportunity to show my skills, ladies. Marfa smiled and got out of the car. The reason for this was naturally because the purpose of his trip had been achieved. Thor Odinson, a professional scammer, who would sleep with people if he was hit. Marfa walked slowly towards Thor with a flashlight in one hand and put the other hand in his trouser pocket. The smile on his face made him look particularly cheap under the light of the flashlight. "Hey, I've wanted to try it for a long time," Marfa thought secretly in his heart. "Oh hey. Are you dead? If you're not dead, don't pretend." Marfa kicked Thor, whose brain was shutting down at the moment, and said coldly, "Still pretending? I tell you, even if you pretend, I won't give you artificial respiration." Marfa remembered that in the original plot, Jane almost gave him artificial respiration. It is clear that the Queen of Heaven, Frigga, had already promised the goddess of harvest, Sif, to Thor, but this guy still blatantly came to Earth to pick up girls. Marfa will never tolerate this kind of Millennium LSP. Ah. Cha. Where is this hammer? My hammer. Where is the hammer? After shaking his body a few times, Thor stood up with difficulty and immediately began to look for his hammer. "Girls, did you see it? I said this was a scammer. Isn't this good? He still wants to find a hammer to rob you. Run. Notify the police. I'm here." Marfa shouted at the RV. Are you okay?" Jane asked worriedly. "Don't worry, I have learned fighting, it's just a scammer." After saying that, Marfa immediately kicked Thor in the crotch. Puff. With a light sound, Thor knelt down with his hands covering his crotch, his flushed face looking particularly refreshing. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go to the town to call the police first. Marfa is so powerful, there must be no problem." Daisy in the co-pilot seat hurriedly urged. Jane hesitated for a moment, and finally stepped on the accelerator and left the first scene of the pawnshop accident. Chapter 233, Damn. Thor was electrocuted. Thor, the god of thunder, has the title of the strongest Avenger. Although it seems to Marfa that he is not worthy of the title, it is indeed true. As the son of Odin, the king of the gods in Norse mythology, the willpower released by the MCU consciousness can only be described as a huge amount. Whether Marfa can directly improve his strength to another level depends on how he messes with the Thor plot. Therefore, Marfa began to plan for today a long time ago. The reason why Odin let Thor come to Earth, that is, Midgard in the mouth of the Aesir, is naturally not to exile Thor. Instead, he wanted to let his own silly and stupid man experience it well, so that his mind would be more mature, so that he could ascend to the throne in the future. As for Loki, Odin never thought of passing the throne to him. After all, Loki is also a Jotunheim person, a frost giant. He is even the son of Laufey, the king of the frost giants. Being able to take him as a godson, Odin essentially wanted to indirectly control Jotunheim through Loki. In the original plot, there is a scene where Odin tells Thor and Loki that both of them can become kings. Thor is naturally the king of Asgard, and Loki is undoubtedly the king of Jotunheim. Adopt Loki as a son, let Loki and Thor develop feelings, and when Thor inherits the throne, Odin will send Loki back to Laufey. Or even kill Laufey directly, so that Loki can become king smoothly. By then, the Aesir will be able to completely control the ambitious Jotunheim. For this reason, even if the frost giant sneaked into Odin's treasury during Thor's succession ceremony, Odin never really got angry, let alone talk about attacking Jotunheim. Because Jotunheim will sooner or later be a subsidiary race of his Aesir. And if you want to get the most benefits in this plotline, it is undoubtedly the best choice to make Loki the king of Asgard. But the question is it possible that Odin will not give the throne to his biological son and give the throne to his godson? From this point of view, no matter how hard Loki tries, he can't become the king of Asgard, this is a given. And what Marfa has to do is to reverse all this and make Odin willingly pass the throne to Loki. When he first had this idea, Marfa himself was shocked. Now he hasn't even touched the ceiling of the earth, but he wants to play with the entire Aesir as a chess piece, which is undoubtedly a huge challenge. For this reason, Marfa thought of countless ways, don't say it, he really figured it out in the end. Especially after getting the ability of the mirror space, it filled the last loophole in his plan. You bastard. I am Thor, the god of thunder, the crown prince of Asgard, the future king. How dare you? Oh, after saying that, Thor covered his crotch again. Obviously, Marfa didn't feel good about the kick just now. You said you are Thor, the god of thunder. Are you Thor? What's the proof? You know Thor is the son of Odin, the king of the gods, but you felt pain for a long time just by being kicked by me. How can I believe you? Marfa said disdainfully. Humph. I will teach you a lesson now. After that, Thor raised his right hand and spread out his 5 fingers. With murderous intent in his eyes, he stared at Marfa. 5 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute. You wait. My hammer may be far away. Thor said awkwardly 10 minutes later. Marfa yawned. I'm sleepy. Maybe your hammer's flight was delayed, or it didn't buy a ticket. Marfa said with a slight smile. No. Impossible. Me. Yes, my father sealed my power. Boy, don't be crazy. Thor said to Marfa viciously. Heimdall. Heimdall. I know you can see this. Hurry up, open the rainbow bridge and pull me back. Thor yelled at the sky, but there was no movement. Heimdall. 10 minutes later. Hello, Jane? It's okay, the other party is just a lunatic. Yes, no problem, the matter is resolved, don't worry. I just received a call from the company, I may not be able to continue to watch the moon with you. That's right. Ignoring Thor, Marfa stood alone, laughing and talking on the phone. Damn, you actually treated me as a lunatic. Thor secretly clenched his fists and glared at Marfa. After hanging up the phone, Marfa found a clean place and sat down. What's the matter, Mr. Thor? Why haven't your reinforcements arrived yet? Isn't the flight delayed too? As the saying goes, don't expose someone's shortcomings when scolding him, and don't hit someone in the face. Marfa was slapping Thor in the face, slapping Thor hard in the face to make him face the reality. Of course, this is also the first step of Marfa's plan, called despair treatment. Boy, I just have a small problem. I can tell you that I am really the god of thunder, Thor Odinson. You have just committed the crime of insulting the gods. If you admit your mistake to me now, maybe I can forgive you. Thor said with a proud look on his face. Really? You can't prove that you are Thor. How did I insult the gods? How about I help you prove it? If you are really the god of thunder, I will apologize to you immediately and treat you to a drink, the kind that you won't leave until you are drunk. Marfa said sinisterly. Drinking? Hearing the word drinking, Thor immediately became energetic. After all, when he was in Asgard, besides fighting, his favorite thing was to drink with Loki and the others. But after seeing Marfa's unfriendly expression, Thor became inexplicably alert. Help me prove it? How to prove it? Thor is not a coward. Since Marfa said so, he naturally cannot show a cowardly expression. Otherwise, where would he put his face as the god of thunder? The next second, Marfa took out the anti-wolf baton he had prepared long ago from his pocket. This was taken from Gian. Didn't you say you were Thor? Since you're Thor, a mere baton of hundreds of thousands of volts shouldn't hurt you. Marfa turned on the switch immediately. Zzzz. Zzzz. The blue arc of electricity kept flashing on the anti-wolf baton, making a numbing sound. You wait, don't, The sound of ghosts and wolves howling resounded throughout the field. Thor was electrocuted by Marfa as soon as he met him. I told you. You are not Thor. Marfa smacked his lips and said calmly. But in his heart, he had already laughed like crazy. Can you believe that Thor was electrocuted? This is actually true. Will the water god drown? Will the fire god be burned to death? Will the harvest goddess starve? Far away on the rainbow of Asgard, Heimdall, who was watching his own prince being electrocuted, couldn't help but twitch his eyes. It was so irritating, it was too irritating. It was simply a shame for my Aesir clan. If this matter spreads out, how can my Aesir clan gain a foothold in the 9 realms? This is so worrying. On the other side, in a palace, Loki, who saw his brother being electrocuted through Frigga's magic, was ecstatic at this moment. It was so cool. Loki, why don't we go to your father and ask for mercy for Thor? Queen Frigga said distressedly when she saw her baby son being bullied like this. Mother, my father is angry now. You know his temper. No one can talk to him. Wait a few days, when his anger has almost subsided, we will go and ask for mercy together. Maybe my father can forgive Thor again. Loki never had any complaints about Queen Frigga. All along, Frigga had taken extra care of him, and even taught Loki a lot of magic in person. In Loki's eyes, his mother loved him more than his silly brother. Therefore, what Loki least wanted to see was Frigga's uncomfortable look. But Thor. Frigga wanted to say something else, but was interrupted by Loki. Mother, don't worry, I will go to Midgard to take care of Thor secretly. It's okay, I'm here. It's just Midgard, and with me here, no one can do anything to Thor. Don't look at it anymore, otherwise you will get angry and hurt yourself, and I will be heartbroken," Loki said like a filial son. Looking at Loki, who was so sensible in front of her, Frigga couldn't help but smile with relief. He reached out and touched Loki's head. "It would be great if Thor was half as sensible as you." Loki, Chapter 234, Toby's Darkening. Hell's Kitchen in New York. Because of the previous Kingpin incident, the Hell's Kitchen area was almost completely destroyed. It is still under reconstruction. But unlike in the past, this time the mayor of New York City obviously intends to rebuild the Hell's Kitchen area. After all, Hell's Kitchen is located in Manhattan, and Manhattan is the financial center of New York, where every inch of land is worth a lot of money. In the past, because of the Kingpin gang, the mayor of New York City had to consider his own life if he wanted to move Hell's Kitchen, but now, all this is no longer a problem. It can be imagined that if the transformation of Hell's Kitchen is completed, the political achievements will be a shining golden signboard, and it will be difficult not to get promoted in the future. The most important thing is, now the Spider Gang has integrated the original Kingpin gang, and the relationship between the boss of the Spider Gang, Tobey Maguire, and the mayor of New York City, is as close as brothers. Utopia is indeed beautiful, but it does not conform to the current society, let alone the interests of politicians and chaebols. The death of the 7 hairy men was like a hard slap in the face, which directly woke Tobey up. Now is different from the past. At this time, Tobey has not only become smooth, but also completely integrated into the role of the boss of the Spider Gang. What collusion with the Jebel, what bribery of the mayor of New York, what smuggling, what casino clubs. Some things always have to be done by someone. Since it is not reliable to let others do it, it is better to do it yourself. At least Tobey dares to pat his chest and say that since his Spider Gang reform, the public security in the entire New York City has definitely improved countless times compared to the past. Although it is still far from the level of leaving doors open at night and not picking up lost items on the road, at least if you walk alone in the streets at night, you will hardly worry about being robbed or even shot like before. Everything Tobey did was naturally seen by the mayor of New York City. As long as Tobey can guarantee tribute, this is a good thing. After all, isn't public security also a major item of political achievements? Therefore, the mayor of New York City directly patted his chest and contracted all the security work during the reconstruction of Hell's Kitchen to Tobey. This is called cooperation brings benefits to both sides. That day, Tobey was singing K with 2 hostesses in the club, but the door of the private room was suddenly opened. A man in trousers and a white shirt with tattoos on his arms rushed in. "Boss, it's bad. Someone came to our place to make trouble." As soon as the man entered the door, he immediately knelt in front of Tobey, lowered his head, and dared not look at Tobey for a second. Bang! The wine glass was smashed heavily on the ground. "Damn it! Who dares to organize these mothers in my Spider Gang? Take me there, I must let him taste what it means to regret it," Tobey said fiercely. After 2 years, too many things have happened. Who would have thought that the man in front of him, who was full of murderous intent in his every move, was still a shy boy who was often bullied by school bullies 2 years ago? "Oh. Really? You want to let me taste the taste of regret?" As soon as the voice fell, Marfa slowly walked into the private room. Behind him, an unconscious man was floating in the air and following closely. "Boss. Boss. It's him." The man who reported the news earlier was immediately panicked when he saw this scene. He subconsciously pulled out the pistol from his waist and pointed it at Marfa. "Pa." The sound of slapping echoed throughout the room. The smiles that the 2 hostesses had on them disappeared without a trace, and they hid aside and trembled. In their eyes, Tobey was good in everything, generous, young and smart. The only problem was that he was a little moody. There was once a man who owed money to a member of the Spider Gang and took a group of younger brothers to help him bully his classmates. Tobey found out about this and broke all the limbs of the Spider Gang member who took the money on the spot. And he broke the bones inch by inch. Another time, a rich second-generation young master slapped a hostess named Mary Jane in Tobey's place. Tobey immediately took a group of his brothers to smash nearly half of the other party's house. Because of this, the members of the Spider Gang are very afraid of their boss. They strictly follow the standards set by Tobey when doing things, and dare not overstep the boundaries. After being slapped, the member who reported the news was stunned. "What's going on? Hasn't our boss always been very protective of his shortcomings? Hasn't he been fearless in the past? Why would he slap himself in front of outsiders today? Show me your eyes. This is my Tobey Maguire's boss, my dear brother." Who dares to touch my boss again and curse at me, I will destroy him directly. Do you understand? Toby roared in a cold voice. I understand, boss. Pa. Another slap was slapped on the face of the person who just reported the news. Why don't you apologize to my boss immediately if you understand? If you feel that you can't speak, I will help you pull out your tongue directly. Toby said coldly. Plop. The messenger finally reacted at this time, and immediately kowtowed to Marfa. The head kowtowed, bang bang. It was almost as loud as a drumstick. Okay, you all leave. I have something to talk to your boss. Hearing this, the younger brothers in the private room looked at each other, and finally their eyes fell on Toby. Are your ears fucking deaf? Didn't you hear my boss want to talk to me? Get out of here one by one. Toby roared. In an instant, everyone immediately ran out. Only one person was more excited, first bowed to Toby, then bowed to Marfa, and then slowly walked out the door. You. What's your name? Toby stopped the man and said. Miles Morales. The black guy bowed slightly and said. Go down. From now on, I will call you Black Hair. I need a follower, and you will follow me from now on. Toby said with a slight smile on his face. Thank you, boss. Thank you, boss is boss. Miles was indeed a clever guy, and he realized that he had picked up a huge bargain. He immediately bowed to Toby and Marfa again, and then hurried away. Before leaving, he did not forget to gently close the door of the private room. To be honest, Marfa was also shocked by Toby's change after not seeing him for a long time. Fortunately, although Toby's personality changed drastically, he was still the same to himself, the person who supported him. It's just that the name Miles Morales seemed to have been heard of somewhere. Marfa frowned and thought for a moment, but in the end he couldn't remember who he was. Maybe I'm overthinking, or maybe he's just a bit player. Marfa thought about it in his heart, and soon he was relieved. This time, he came with an important matter, and he couldn't delay his business because of a gangster. Marfa, it's rare. I didn't expect you to come to me. When everyone left, Toby's tense face relaxed instantly, and the gangster boss who was so arrogant just now immediately turned back into the shy boy he used to be. It seemed to confirm the song I am still the boy I used to be, without any change. Ahem. Recovering from his daze, Marfa pointed to Thor who was stunned behind him. This time I came to trouble you to brainwash this guy. Brainwash. Toby looked at the golden-haired man behind Marfa curiously, and immediately became interested. What kind of person would bother Marfa to personally send him to him and let him brainwash him? Marfa didn't explain too much. After all, Heimdall was watching on the Rainbow Bridge. If you want to complete the plan, you must take it step by step and let Thor willingly change his mind. Seeing that Marfa didn't mean to explain, Toby didn't say much, just shrugged. Tell me how to do it, as long as I can do it. Toby has 100,000 trust in Marfa. After all, everything he has now is given by Marfa. Even if he doubts the whole world, Toby will not doubt Marfa. This kid, this man is called Thor. You don't need to care about other things. What you have to do is to let this guy suffer a lot, see the ups and downs of life, and experience all kinds of life. Understand the difficulty of being a human being, in short, how hard it is, you do it. In addition, don't underestimate him, although his physique is only slightly better than that of ordinary people, but he has rich combat experience. If you have the opportunity, you can learn a thing or two. I believe it will be helpful to you. As soon as the voice fell, Marfa threw Thor to Toby. Marfa, this guy won't be a great person. From what you said, he seems like a rich second generation who came out to experience. Toby glanced at the unconscious Thor and asked curiously. Don't know too much? Knowing too much will only cause endless troubles. Marfa patted Toby on the shoulder and said. Okay, got it. Leave it to me, I'll make him shed a layer of skin. As he spoke, the aura of the former gangster boss was unconsciously revealed. Chapter 235, Debtor Concentration Camp. On the Rainbow Bridge, Heimdall finally breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that the Midgardian with superpowers did not harm his own prince. Although he was exiled to Earth by Odin, Heimdall had long been accustomed to the world with his eyes that could see through the 9 realms. His rich life experience is definitely the first in the entire Asgard. Therefore, Heimdall had long understood the deep meaning of everything Odin did. It was also because of this that he had to keep an eye on Thor at all times to prevent any accidents. Now that Thor was sent to another person by Marfa, Heimdall was finally relieved. Compared with Toby, The gangster boss. It was obvious that Marfa gave him a more dangerous feeling. The second day after Thor came to Earth. After waking up from a coma and sleeping all night, Thor only felt a sense of comfort all over his body. Even the two balls seemed to have completely recovered because of the body's self-healing ability. Opening his eyes, it was pitch black all around. "Where is this?" Thor said subconsciously. But soon, he found those who were locked up in the small dark room with him. "I want to go out. I am the Prince of Asgard, Thor. You bastards, you will bear the wrath of God." Thor roared, but no one paid attention to him. Finally, after a long time, a man with disheveled hair and a listless look walked out of the crowd. "Brother, stop yelling. You can't get out before you pay off your debts. Come and work hard with us in the future. The Spider Gang is not a wicked gang. As long as you pay off your debts, you can still enjoy life when you get out." The man said slowly. "That's right, the place where Thor is now is the darkest place of the Spider Gang. It is commonly known as the debtor concentration camp. Anyone who overconsumes and is unable to repay within the Spider Gang's sphere of influence, or who borrows money from good people who have paid protection fees and deliberately refuses to pay, will be caught by the Spider Gang and come here to do hard labor. Use labor to exchange money to pay off debts. Of course, in the Laolai concentration camp, everyone enjoys inhuman treatment." "What? Debt? Are you kidding? How can I, Thor, be in debt?" Thor said in disbelief. "Cut it, come on. Everyone knows that the Spider Gang has a bottom line. No one who comes here is clean." A woman with a pretty face in the crowd said. She borrowed a huge sum of money from her 3 colleagues of the opposite sex with her beautiful face, and while maintaining an ambiguous relationship with the 3 opposite sexes, she enjoyed luxury and squandered money. In the end, the matter was exposed and she was jointly sent to court by the 3. But she didn't have any savings, let alone fixed assets, and even her credit card was in debt. In the end, all her accounts were frozen and she was put on the credit blacklist. Except that she couldn't continue to enjoy her life. She ate and drank as she should, and her life didn't seem to be affected too much. Unfortunately, the 3 men who were cheated of money by her all paid protection fees to the Spider Gang. So she came here. As for the man who first spoke to Thor, he was originally a small boss of a private enterprise, but his business was not doing well and he was on the verge of bankruptcy. But as the saying goes, it is easy to go from frugality to luxury, but it is difficult to go from luxury to frugality. How could he, who had long been accustomed to the extravagance of wine and women, lower his living standards because of this? So he borrowed a large sum of money from his friends in the name of capital turnover. So he also came here. The small dark room is not big, but there are nearly 100 people. This is just one point. There are more than a dozen small dark rooms like this in New York alone. Brother, you will get used to it slowly. When you first came here, everyone was the same as you. But after staying here for a long time, you feel particularly at ease. At least we don't have to face the debt collection of creditors anymore, and we don't have to hide all day. As long as we pay off our debts, the Spider Gang can even help us solve the credit problem. When you get out, you will be a clean person again." The man patted Thor on the shoulder and said, "Squeak." At this moment, the iron door of the small dark room was opened. 10 burly men with rubber sticks and whips came in. Snap! The whip swung, and the sound of breaking through the air immediately made everyone in the small dark room tremble. "You scumbags, it's time to work. Work hard, maybe you will be free one day," the leading man said. "Damn, these bastards, get out. I am the Prince of Asgard." An unprecedented sense of humiliation instantly climbed into Thor's heart. He was furious, his hands clenched into fists, obviously intending to fight with the man in front of him, and then take the opportunity to slip away. At this moment. "No. I'm not a deadbeat, you got it wrong. I want to get out. I want to sue you." A man with a body shape similar to Thor's was full of fear in his eyes and shouted wildly. The next second, he rushed towards the door. He was about to rush out. Snap! The whip was swung and hit the man's back directly. A bloody wound appeared on the man's back in an instant. The man's eyes were determined and fierce. He continued to rush towards the door despite the severe pain in his back. Pa! Pa! 2 more whip shadows flashed by. The man's back had 2 more hideous wounds. "No! I will never give in. I am innocent," the man shouted. Bang! At this moment, a big foot kicked in from outside the door. It hit the man in the face. Old Lie, a Brooklyn native, hit a student with his car, and was sentenced by the court to pay $150,000 in compensation. However, not only did you not pay the compensation, you also threatened the victim's family again and again. You even secretly transferred all your property to your brother's name. My spider gang is arresting scum like you. As the voice fell, a muscular man with tattoos all over his body and bare upper body walked in, saying fiercely. The man was kicked and fell to the ground, twitching in pain. From the moment you were called a deadbeat, you are scum, not worthy of pity, and no human rights. Line up and get ready to work. The tattooed man shouted. Gudong. Everyone swallowed their saliva, stood up immediately, and began to line up obediently. Thor, what the hell? Oh my god. Who can tell me why I came to this kind of hell? Thor roared in his heart. However, holding the idea of a hero not to suffer a loss in front of him, Thor finally put down his clenched fist. Can I ask why I came here? Thor said weakly. The tattooed man glanced at Thor and frowned. Who the hell is this person? Why haven't I seen him before? The next second, the tattooed man immediately took out a booklet and checked it. Thor Odinson. The tattooed man was stunned, because there was only a name and a photo on the file. There was not even a record of how much money he owed. He had been working as a supervisor for quite a while, and this was the first time he had encountered such a situation. So he immediately turned to the second page of the file. After reading the content clearly, he couldn't help but twitch his face. Thor Odinson made a bet with someone that he was the god of thunder. The other party used a $30,000 anti-wolf baton to shock him to verify the authenticity. As a result, the anti-wolf baton broke. Does this count? It's clearly blackmail, okay? What are you looking at? You owe $30,000. Work hard, and you'll be out in no time. Seeing Thor looking at him, the tattooed man couldn't help but roar with a red face, and he didn't mean to answer him at all. But as soon as the words came out, everyone couldn't help but cast envious eyes at Thor. It's just $30,000. If you work hard, you can pay it off soon. This is definitely the most worthless deadbeat they have ever seen. Chapter 236 Thor's Change. It was the 7th day since Thor came to Earth. At this time, Thor's eyes had lost their former brilliance. He was holding a long hammer in both hands and swinging it continuously. The hammer, swung by Thor, brought about strong winds and fell steadily on a cement board in front of him. Hey, hey, hey. The shouts came one after another. Not to mention, this hammer would not have such momentum in the hands of ordinary people. Bang, bang, bang. There was only a sound of metal clashing. The next second, 3 or 2 strong men came over with 2 large buckets. The large buckets were full of food. In an instant, everyone put down their tools and rushed towards the location of the large buckets like a hungry wolf. Get out of my way. Please, let me go first. I haven't eaten enough for several days. Fuck you, you dare to cut in line. With you pushing and shoving me, everyone quickly lined up. The person at the front of the line was none other than Thor. At first, because Thor had just arrived and didn't know anything, he instinctively resisted when he saw those big men carrying food to everyone like feeding animals. Not only did he not rush to line up, he even took the initiative to maintain order for the staff. It's just that the environment studies personality. After 3 consecutive days of hunger, Thor finally realized the problem. If he continues like this, he might starve to death in this concentration camp for deadbeats. No, I can't die, I must go back to Asgard. I still have a hungry brother, I still have a gentle and kind mother, and I still have thousands of people. So, on the 4th day, Thor changed his attitude of salted fish in the past, and rushed towards the food as soon as the sound of dong sounded. But he was too young after all, and didn't understand the sinister nature of human hearts. After being cut in line by more than a dozen people in a row, Thor finally only ate half full. On the 5th day, Thor changed again. This time, Sol, who dared to cut in line, did not say a word. Relying on his strong physique, he directly picked up the other person and threw him out. So Sol successfully lined up first. But when he saw an old man at the end of the line had no food, he generously gave half of his food to the other person. However, unexpectedly, on the 5th day, the foreman arranged overtime. In the end, Sol had to stay hungry all night. On the 6th day, Sol was too hungry to exert much strength and barely lined up in the middle of the line. However, this time, everyone had already discovered that Sol was a complete saint. So, After quickly eating his food, a group of people actually began to snatch his food. Fortunately, Soul ate some and finally recovered a lot of physical strength. Fuck, there's meat today. After everyone got their food, a man in the crowd exclaimed. You know, they usually eat vegetarian food such as rice, corn, green beans, kelp, and cabbage. Meat is rare in the Laolai concentration camp. A group of people came up and grabbed the food in the bowl with their hands without using spoons or chopsticks, and stuffed it into their mouth frantically. Because everyone knows that if you eat slowly, others will take away the remaining food. Since Thor was the first in line, he got the most food. In addition, as the Prince of Asgard for many years, Thor naturally couldn't eat with his hands like others. So, when others finished eating, Thor had only eaten about half of it. At this time, 3 or 5 people gathered around Thor at the same time. It was obvious that they were going to repeat what happened yesterday. But no one noticed at this time. Thor returned to his long hammer as soon as he got the food. Boy, hand over your food, so as not to suffer physical pain, one of the men said. However, it was the long hammer next to Thor who answered him. Bang! The long hammer smashed in front of the man without saying a word, and actually smashed a piece of marble into pieces. One more step forward, and I'll smash your head, Thor said calmly. Hiss. Seeing this scene, everyone couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. They did often fight for some supplies, but no one was as fierce as Thor. After all, everyone was just a deadbeat, neither a soldier nor a mercenary, and no one had ever been on the battlefield like Thor. Besides, as long as the debt was paid off, everyone could escape from the sea of suffering and return to the human society. If someone was killed at this time, there would be no possibility of returning. But what was wrong with the man in front of him? What was the murderous aura just now? Could it be that he wanted to fight to the death? In fact, these things were wrong. Thor had really been on the battlefield, and the number of people who died in his hands was at least hundreds of thousands. He did have the world in his heart, but that also depended on the situation. As the saying goes, if you are poor, you should take care of yourself, and if you are rich, you should help the world. Today, Thor has obviously turned on the take care of yourself mode. If anyone dared to make him die, he would smash his head without hesitation. It's not that Asgard has no laws, but the laws of Asgard are decided by Odin, Thor and other royal families. In a sense, Thor is lawless. Seeing that they couldn't get any good from Thor, those people were angry. After looking at each other, they locked their eyes on the other people who hadn't finished eating. At this time, a hunchbacked woman in her 50s came over. Young man, have mercy on me. I have a little grandson at home waiting for me to take care of him. I can't starve to death here. The old man was obviously frightened by Thor's momentum just now, and tremblingly stretched out his empty rice bowl towards Thor. Bang! Thor raised his long hammer and hit the rice bowl in the old man's hand. Thor knew this person. It was the old man who begged for food from Thor on the 5th day. But that night, when Thor was too hungry to sleep, he saw the old man take out a piece of bread from his pocket and stuff it into his mouth without saying a word. Obviously, the old man hid some of the food as soon as he was given the food, and then began to use people's sympathy to beg for food everywhere. Thor is simple, but not stupid. After all, he is an old monster who has lived for more than 1,000 years. How could he fall in the same place twice? Thor's mind is full of survival now. As long as he can survive, as long as he can return to Asgard, as long as he can return to Valhalla, what does it matter if he throws away a little insignificant self-esteem? At this time, Toby, who was hiding in a monitoring room somewhere, drinking black tea, cracking melon seeds, and blowing the heater, pointed to the monitor in front of him. How is it, boss? I am reliable, right? Toby raised the corner of his mouth and smiled evilly. Ha ha ha. As expected of you, you are the boss of the Spider Gang. I knew that it would be right to leave this to you. Marfa and Toby clinked their teacups and drank it all. No, it's all the boss's teaching. Today, Toby no longer looks like a shy boy, but a seasoned veteran in the workplace. Just like the environment transformed Thor, Toby was also smoothed by this ruthless society. What are you pretending to be in front of me? We are not brothers, but we are better than brothers. Follow me, ha ha ha. Marfa slapped Toby on the head with the back of his head. However, Toby did not mean to be angry at all, but showed a long-lost silly smile. If this scene fell into the eyes of the Spider Gang members, they would be shocked. Is this still the majestic boss they know? Little did they know that the more Marfa was like this, the happier Toby was. Of course, this is not because Toby has developed some strange attributes, but only in front of Marfa can he feel his true self. Just like those executives who usually call the shots in the office and always have a sour face, once they get home, they still act cute and funny. Because only in front of their family can they take off their disguise and be themselves. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237 Despair Step 2. Here, this is for you. Let your little yellow drink it later. Marfa threw a blue potion to Toby. What is this? With his agility, Toby easily caught the potion thrown by Marfa, looked at it, and asked curiously. Symbiotes are afraid of high temperatures, flames, and sound waves. Once they encounter them, they basically have no fighting power. This is the latest product of our legendary technology, which can solve the weakness of symbiotes being afraid of high temperatures and flames. As for sound waves, there is no way yet. Marfa said. There is no doubt that this potion is developed based on the electric light human serum. Not only Little Yellow, but also Little Blue and Little Silver have a share. What? Little Black? Sorry, Marfa is not familiar with him. Go to whichever place is cooler. Marfa is not a charity. Whether it is Flush or Andrew, Marfa has never regarded them as his own people. At best, it is a relationship of cooperation and utilization. If Little Black wants the potion, he will naturally have to exchange it for benefits. However, Marfa didn't think that Andrew or Flush had anything that Marfa would like. Toby didn't hesitate to accept the gift from his boss. He immediately unscrewed the bottle cap and poured it into his collar. As Sandstorm parasitized Toby for a longer time, the relationship between the two became closer. In particular, Toby's character of fighting to the death with his enemies and being honest with his own people made Sandstorm admire him very much. Especially recently, Toby has truly become the boss of the Spider Gang, and he has caught a few villains from time to give Sandstorm a treat. In this way, Sandstorm has no better complaints. How should Thor deal with it? Should we increase the intensity? Toby got a benefit, so he naturally paid more attention to Marfa's affairs. No, it's almost done. I didn't expect Thor to adapt so quickly. In this case, there is no need for him to stay with you any longer. Marfa said after a little thought. Ah, so fast? That's it? I haven't had enough fun yet. Toby pulled the corner of his mouth and said with a bit of a dark belly. There is no doubt that those who snatched Toby's food, those who cut in line, and even the old woman were all arranged by Toby in advance. You know, the management of the Spider Gang's Laolai concentration camp is quite harsh, and there are not many people who dare to cause trouble in the Spider Gang. Just these few troublemakers are top-notch people that Toby spent a lot of energy to transfer from other training camps. However, since Marfa has spoken, Toby will naturally not refuse. He immediately called Miles and explained to him. It must be mentioned that since putting Miles by his side, Toby has become more adept at doing things. Although Miles is not very old, he is quite reliable in doing things. Especially in terms of figuring out Toby's thoughts, he is impeccable. If this kind of person were placed in ancient times, he would definitely be a good eunuch. Maybe one day he will be 9,000 years old. The 10th day when Thor came to Earth. Squeak. The door of the small black room was opened again, but unlike before, not many people came in this time. The leading man pointed at Thor. Thor Odinson, your creditor has given up the debt. You can go out. In addition, this is your labor income these days. Be a good person after you go out, and stop talking nonsense, understand? The man took out a stack of US dollars and handed it to Thor, saying coldly. I understand, I understand. I will definitely turn over a new leaf and start a new life. Thor took the money and nodded. The situation is stronger than people, and everything is for survival. Little did they know that at this time, everyone in the small dark room, without exception, cast an extremely envious look at him. What the hell is such a good thing? The creditor actually gave up the debt. Where did this local tyrant come from? Please give me a stack. Everyone thought so, but they didn't know that it was precisely because of this idea that many people in the small dark room would be sent back to prison soon after seeing the light of day one day in the future. On the streets of Queens, Thor held a stack of US dollars, his heart full of bitterness. What the hell is going on? He became a deadbeat for no apparent reason, was arranged to do hard labor for a few days for no apparent reason, and now he was released for no apparent reason. Oh, Midgard is too dangerous, I want to go back to Asgard. But ideals are full, and reality is skinny. How could Odin let him go back after such a short time here? It's useless to cry for his parents. Thor is also open-minded. Instead of being so decadent, it's better to live a good life and wait for an opportunity. Others may not know, but Thor believes that at least his baby brother will find a way to let him go back. After all, they grew up wearing the same pants, so there's still friendship. The experience in the deadbeat concentration camp is undoubtedly a nightmare for Thor, but fortunately, Thor is not without gain. At least he knows that this is Midgard, Earth, and he also knows that the thing in his hand is called the US dollar, which is almost the universal currency on this planet. In 2010, the minimum monthly wage in the United States was about $1,300. Because the work done in the concentration camp for the deadbeats was hard and tiring, the salary was higher, about $3,000 a month. In other words, Saul now has $900 in his hand. If converted into Chinese currency, it is about 6,000 yuan, which is also a lot of money. The first thing Saul did after getting out of prison was to find a small restaurant immediately. It was impossible for him to afford Chinese food, which was very expensive. But pizza, hamburgers and the like are quite cheap in the United States. Saul was really hungry these days, and he spent $50 on a meal. He didn't leave the restaurant until his stomach was full and satisfied. At this moment, Saul only felt that the air in New York was particularly fresh, the sky in New York was particularly clear, the streets in New York were particularly clean, and the thieves in New York. Where's my money? Damn. Don't run, kid. That's my hard-earned money. Looking at his empty pocket, Thor felt like he was struck by lightning again. He was in a bad state. So he immediately started chasing the thief in front of him. But he had just eaten too much and hadn't had time to digest it. As he ran, his stomach churned. Damn it. Give me my money back. Thor tried to hold back his nausea while chasing like crazy. He didn't forget to shout a few words at the end, hoping that someone could help him stop the thief. You know, even if Thor lost his divine power, his physique was slightly superior to that of ordinary people. With his physique, he would have won the all-around championship at the sports meeting with his eyes closed. But unexpectedly, the thief was so fast that Thor couldn't catch up at all. But Thor didn't chase for too long before he stopped and smiled evilly. Because just now, the thief actually ran into a small alley. That alley, which Thor had been to when he was looking for a restaurant, was a dead end. Ha ha ha. I tell you. You damn thief. Thor Odinson, if I don't beat you so hard that even your parents don't recognize you today, I won't be called Thor. Thor set a flag, took steady steps, and immediately blocked the entrance of the alley. But the next second, Thor was dumbfounded. Where are the people? He looked at the three walls of tens of meters high in the alley, and then looked at the smooth ground without any sewers. My money. The wailing sound resounded through the sky, attracting the attention of the people around. At this time, Marfa, who was less than 10 meters away from Thor and entered the invisible state, was laughing and shaking all over. The second step of the desperate plan was completed. Chapter 238 Brainwashing Thor, Part 1. What is true despair? If you can't see hope, you are like a dead pig that is not afraid of boiling water. Only when you have seen the light and fall into darkness again, you can be called despair. Only when success is within reach but you can never reach it, you can be called despair. And now Thor has experienced the taste of despair. What does it mean to have no money? Everyone in the Lalai concentration camp has explained it to Thor clearly by words and deeds. Unlike Asgard, on Earth, he is not a prince and has no privileges. He has to pay for meals, accommodation, and even taking a shower and changing clothes. It's gone, everything is gone. At this moment, Thor hated Odin and Frigga so much. Why didn't they change their posture when they created him? What kind of Thor is Thor? Can't he be absent-minded? Even if it's not absent-minded, it's okay to be absent-minded. How about doing odd jobs? But what can I do? Thinking about it carefully, it seems that I can't do anything else except fighting and drinking. In the next few days, Thor was forced to live on the streets, living with wild cats and competing with wild dogs for food. Those days were miserable. Thor had thought about working. After all, Asgardians look similar to white people and are more popular in the United States. However, the United States considers itself to be the world's largest country, especially during the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union. After the disintegration of the Soviet Union, the world pattern of one superpower and many strong countries gave the United States great confidence. Therefore, countless people would rather sneak in and become illegal immigrants, and want to seek a first-line success in the United States. For these illegal immigrants who do not have green cards or visas and passports, the US government has naturally introduced a series of measures. Just like Thor now, it is as difficult to find a decent job as to make Thor quit drinking. After a few days, Thor no longer has the arrogance of the past, and is just like a beggar on the street. Damn it, I, the great Thor, have ended up in such a miserable situation. Next to the trash can, Thor clenched his fists as he looked at the pedestrians passing by. Just then, a couple walked by with a little girl. The little girl held an ice cream cone in her hand, her cute little mouth opened and closed, her little tongue kept swallowing and spitting out, enjoying the sweetness of the cone. Seeing this scene, Thor subconsciously swallowed his saliva and almost pounced on it. He was really hungry. The hungrier he was, the less physical strength he had, and the less physical strength he had, the less energy he had to find food. Not to mention the ice cream cone in the little girl's hand. Even when he saw the stray cats and dogs passing by him, Thor couldn't help swallowing his saliva. If I had known this, I shouldn't have left that deadbeat concentration camp. At least there was food and accommodation there. Thor murmured sarcastically. But the fact is that he doesn't even have the qualifications to be a deadbeat now. Anyone who can enter the deadbeat concentration camp is in debt. But what about Thor? Who'll lend him money? Just then, pop! The little girl's cone fell to the ground. Wow! Wow! A series of golden beams immediately burst out of the little girl's eyes. Be good, baby, don't cry, Daddy will buy you another one. The little girl's father wiped the little girl's chubby face lovingly and comforted her. Yet, the tears stopped, and the little girl immediately lay on her father's back. The family disappeared happily from Thor's sight. Father. The scene in front of him hurt Thor's heart again. Is he wrong? The frost giants actually sneaked into the treasury to steal the ice box on the day when the new king of Asgard ascended the throne. As the new king, Thor just wanted to punish that lowly race. What did he do wrong? Odin conquered the 9 realms, why did he have to be so harshly criticized for wanting to attack Jotunheim? Thor couldn't figure it out, and the more he thought about it, the angrier he got. As the king of Asgard, although Thor had not yet taken over the throne, that day was his day of enthronement. In Thor's heart, he and the king had been equated. But why could Odin do it, but he couldn't? In the original plot, Thor didn't have much time to think about this, because Loki appeared too early and lied to Thor that Odin was dead. Or it was because Thor provoked the war between the 2 realms that he died. Therefore, Thor was full of self-blame and guilt. However, this time, seeing his silly brother so miserable, Loki, who was hiding in the distance admiring, had already gone crazy with joy, and never thought of adding fuel to the fire. Therefore, Thor was given enough time to think. Gurgle. Listening to the gurgling sound coming from his stomach, Thor looked at the ice cream cone that fell to the ground, and his heart was full of entanglement. Should I go over and pick up the cone to eat? Just when Sol was hesitating, a sanitation worker came over and swept the cone into the dustbin without saying a word. Forget it. Now I don't have a chance to eat it. Sol was so upset. Young man, are you hungry? Suddenly an old man walked up to Sol and smiled at him kindly. Eat it, kid. The old man took out a roast chicken and handed it to Sol. Sol looked at the old man in front of him, and then looked at the golden, sizzling roast chicken, and his saliva filled his mouth subconsciously. I don't have money. Sol hesitated for a moment and finally said. Ha ha ha. Kid, I didn't ask you for money, did I? If you don't mind, you might as well listen to my nagging. When people get old, they just want to find someone to chat with. The old man didn't mind the mess next to the trash can, and sat down not far from Sol. Thank you so much. After taking the roast chicken and smelling the aroma that penetrated his nose, Sol finally couldn't help it. He didn't care about etiquette or dignity and immediately started to eat it. I am a private business owner. When I was young, I had a daughter who was very capable. Really, she is very talented in business, even better than me. The old man said slowly. As the saying goes, the mouth of the one who eats is soft, and the hand of the one who takes is short. Since Sol accepted the roast chicken from the old man, of course he had to play the role of a loyal listener. Then you are really lucky to have such a capable child, Sol said while chewing the roast chicken and sucking the oil on his fingers. It's a pity, I didn't think so at the time. The old man couldn't help showing regret when he said this. Oh. Hearing this, Sol also became interested, and even the action of chewing the roast chicken slowed down a little. You know, business is risky. The bigger the family business, the more timid I became. I was afraid that I would make a mistake and end up in ruin. So I chose a conservative management policy, focusing on being proper, and no longer had the fighting spirit of my youth. That's right, but don't you have a capable daughter? Why don't you hand over the business to her? Sol asked curiously. Because she is too capable. She is different from me, or she is like me when I was young, hoping to make the family business bigger, and she does have the ability to do so. It's just that her business model is too radical, and I'm worried that one day she will make a mistake and ruin the entire business. But when I wanted to take back the power, it was too late. My employees all trusted her very much, and the company was out of my control. So I fabricated evidence and sent her to prison. At this point, the old man couldn't help but reveal a look of determination on his face. Sol also stopped eating the roast chicken and looked at the old man with contempt. Oh, then you are really a piece of shit. Although the roast chicken was delicious, Thor still had a bottom line. He was the kind of person who said what he thought. Oh? Actually, I think so too. The old man's next words shocked Thor. What the hell is going on? Someone actually said that he was a piece of shit? This time, Thor became more interested. He even stopped eating the roast chicken. Instead, he sat quietly and listened to the old man's story. Later, my wife gave birth to another son for me. Compared with my eldest daughter, he is indeed a little worse. He is not decisive enough and does things recklessly. But he is very brave and honest, just like you, kid. Chapter 239 Brainwashing Thor, Part 2. Oh, God is so blind that he gave you such a good son to a scumbag like you. You should be honored. Sol said with a strange look on his face. Of course, my son is just like me when I was young. Although he is not as capable as my eldest daughter, he is still an outstanding young man. But time is unforgiving. In the blink of an eye, I have become old. I was planning to give up my power and hand over the company to him. At this point, the old man paused for a moment. You should have done so long ago. You will only let your company decline now. Sol thought for a moment and said in a deep voice. No, in fact, I didn't hand over the company to him in the end. The turning point came again. There is no doubt that this time, Sol's emotions were completely mobilized. He put down the roast chicken in his hand and moved to the seat where the old man was sitting. Then what? Sol asked. On the day when I was about to hand over the company to my son, I found that he was as radical as my eldest daughter. He wanted to make the company bigger and stronger instead of ensuring that the company would never go bankrupt. I hated him so much, hated that he didn't understand my ideas. Only when it is passed down from generation to generation can it be a truly great company. The old man said slowly. This time, Thor stood up directly. You old fool, whether it is your son or daughter, they just want to make the company better, but you are complacent and timid. You even murdered your daughter. Thor was a little excited because he saw his own shadow in the old man's children. Did he rashly go to Jotunheim just to suppress the arrogance of the frost giants? Did he do this just to make Asgard's glory last forever? Did he do this just to protect Asgard and its thousands of people? What about your son? Even Thor himself didn't notice that he no longer used honorifics when he spoke. I deprived him of his position and power and kicked him out of the house. Bang! This time, Thor swung his fist in anger. Fortunately, he was still rational, and finally only hit the wall behind the old man with his fist. Get out of my sight with your roast chicken. Thor Odinson, I'm ashamed to be with you. Thor pointed to the roast chicken on the ground and said. Really? Then do you want to meet your sister? The old man said slowly. As soon as the voice fell, the environment around Thor cracked like glass. Obviously, the two have come to the mirror space. Yes, the old man just now was the one who was disguised by Marfa through the riot. At this time, on the Rainbow Bridge far away in Asgard, Heimdall, who was always paying attention to Thor, had a drastic change of expression. Thor disappeared. At first, Heimdall was very happy to see the old man who gave Thor roast chicken. After all, his own prince was so pitiful, and it was a good thing to meet a kind person. Unexpectedly, the old man actually sat down next to Thor and started chatting with him. In this regard, Heimdall instinctively felt uneasy. He immediately focused his attention and wanted to read the old man's lip-shaped tone for what he said. But Heimdall could not have imagined that Marfa had long guessed that he would monitor Thor in Asgard. Therefore, it was Riot who spoke, and Marfa himself who really spoke. So the content of the speech and the lip shape did not match at all. Seeing that the old man was just chatting with Thor about family matters, Heimdall's originally hanging heart was put down again. But when Thor stood up and punched the old man, Heimdall realized that things were not good. Until Thor's figure disappeared, Heimdall was completely panicked. The prince is gone. Heimdall's innate ability is to see any corner of the 9 realms. Some special mysterious places are not included, such as Kamartaj and the 3 major temples. Without further ado, Heimdall immediately left the Rainbow Bridge and ran towards the Asgard without stopping. He must report this to Odin as soon as possible. After all, the prince's disappearance is not a trivial matter. However, to Heimdall's surprise, Odin actually entered Odin's sleep at this critical moment. The Aesir usually has a lifespan of nearly 5,000 years. The royal family, in addition to their long lifespan, has a characteristic. That is, even if they do not practice, their strength will increase significantly with age. This talent that can improve strength by eating, sleeping, and playing games is undoubtedly envied by countless people. However, once the lifespan is over half, it is not a good thing for the royal family of the Aesir. Too fast strength improvement will lead to a series of hidden dangers in the body, and serious ones may even lead to physical collapse. Therefore, the royal family of the Aesir often enters hibernation from time to time after reaching a certain age. Use the time of hibernation to suppress the rapid growth of the body's power, and take the opportunity to sort out the power that has been obtained for better control. Every time you wake up from hibernation, the strength of the dormant person will be greatly improved, and the physical condition will also be improved. Now, Odin is more than 4,000 years old, and the frequency of his hibernation is naturally getting higher and higher, until he really sleeps forever. Hibernation is usually not interrupted. Once interrupted, it will cause the power in the dormant person to run away. At the end of the original plot of Thor 1, Thor and Loki fought on the Rainbow Bridge, and finally the two almost fell from the Rainbow Bridge together and lost in the endless universe. For this reason, Odin had to forcibly end his hibernation and save Thor. Then in the beginning of the plot of Avengers 1, he used secret methods to forcibly break through the void and sent Thor to the earth. In this way, the injury was compounded, causing his remaining hundreds of years of life to come to an end in just a few years. No, I have to do something. Heimdall thought secretly. Soon, he set his sights on the 4 warriors of Asgard. The 4 warriors of Asgard, Fandral, Hogun, Volstagg and Thor's bride-to-be, the goddess of harvest, Sif. The 4 warriors of Asgard were a group of trusted men that Odin had created for Thor in his early years in order to help him ascend to power. Fandral, who was known for his speed and agility, was extremely sharp with a rapier in his hands. Hogun, who was known for his changes, could often deal fatal blows to his enemies with his mace that could be transformed into a meteor hammer. Tucker, who was known for his strength. Although he looked big and strong, he was no less powerful than Thor in the state of divine power. The double-edged battle axe in his hand was his supreme weapon for charging into battle. Of course, there was also Sif, who as the last one is a think tank and a beauty. Like the Queen Frigga, Sif was also from the Vanaheim clan. She was arranged by Frigga to be by Thor's side since she was a child. She could be said to be a child bride. The 4 warriors were naturally unquestionable about their loyalty to Thor. Only by sending them to investigate Thor's disappearance could Heimdall feel more at ease. As for Loki, it was good enough that he didn't stab Thor in the back when he saw him. Heimdall saw the growth of the 2 princes one by one. Heimdall never trusted Loki, and most importantly, Loki had already come to Earth by Frigga's order. However, in Heimdall's eyes, he did nothing. He just watched his brother suffer from a distance, and he hid his sight and smiled meaningfully. In the mirror space, Thor stared at the old man in front of him with a vigilant look. No matter how stupid he was, he had already found that he had been tricked. Who are you? What's your purpose? And what's the matter with you just saying you want to see my sister? Thor finally couldn't help it and spoke first. As soon as the voice fell, A silver liquid kept wriggling on the old man's face, and soon his true face was revealed. "It's you, you bastard. You dare to send me to the Leole concentration camp." Thor was furious when he saw Marfa, and rushed forward without saying a word and grabbed Marfa's collar. "Ahem. Shouldn't you thank me first? If I hadn't sent you there, you would have starved to death in New Mexico. It's desolate and sparsely populated there, unlike New York, where you can find food without much effort." The food that Marfa was talking about was naturally the kitchen scraps and the trash can. "You." Thor wanted to say something, but was speechless for a moment. If it was when he had just been released from prison, Thor would definitely beat Marfa up without saying a word. As for whether to kill him or not, beat him first and then talk about it. However, after a few days of living on the streets, Thor had to say that he really missed the days in the Leole concentration camp. So loosened his hand that was grabbing Marfa's collar, took a long breath, and his fist didn't hit Marfa's face after all. "Tell me, why did you help me? And what did your story just now mean?" "Let me tell you, I don't have a sister." "Sister? Ahem, I mean I do have a brother." Chapter 240 To the Land of Death. "Nothing, it means literally. Thor, you have lived for nearly 1,000 years, don't you understand it now?" At this time, Marfa had already activated the skill effect of the Great Liar. Whether the matter could be accomplished depended on this wave. If he didn't use the skill now, could he keep it for the new year? "I don't understand. Although I don't know why you suddenly believe that I am Thor, the god of thunder, I don't believe what you said. At least, if I had a sister, I wouldn't know nothing." Marfa's skill effect obviously worked. This time Thor did not immediately deny it completely, but thought about it carefully before answering. "Of course you don't know, because the entire Aesir tribe is deceiving you. Your father, your mother, your people, of course, not including your brother. After all, he is kept in the dark like you. Are you right, Loki?" As Marfa's voice fell, a golden green figure appeared not far behind Thor. "Loki. How could it be you? I knew you would come. Did my father forgive me? Can I go back to Asgard now?" When Thor saw Loki, the worry, fear, all the negative emotions in his heart disappeared in an instant. "No, my father did not forgive you. In fact, I came to Earth privately, and..." Loki stopped talking halfway. According to the original plan, it should be time to tell Thor the false news of Odin's death in order to further destroy Thor's will. The reason why he did not continue was that Loki was different from Heimdall, who was far away in Asgard. He was relatively close and heard every word Marfa said clearly. Like Thor, Loki did not believe this unknown Midgardian in front of him, but inexplicably, Loki had a feeling that what Marfa said was the truth of everything. Interesting. Midgardians, if I remember correctly, the lifespan of Midgardians is only a few decades. Even if you are different, 100 years is the limit. But you just said that we have all lived for more than 1,000 years. Why do you think your guess is the truth? As expected of the god of tricks, even if his subjective judgment ability was interfered with by the great trick, Loki still raised his doubts with reason and evidence. That's right, whether it is Loki or Thor, they are now more than 1,000 years old. They have lived in Asgard for more than 1,000 years and they don't know that they have a sister. How did Marfa, who has a lifespan of less than 100 years at most, know about it? Rely on inheritance? Or is it pure guessing? The most important thing is that Marfa has never been to Asgard, so how did he know these so-called secrets? This is completely illogical. I can only tell you that I naturally have my own intelligence channels, and they are true and reliable. It's better to see it with your own eyes than to say 1,000 words. After that, Marfa immediately took out a blue energy crystal from the paper bag he was carrying. Without a doubt, this is the Cosmic Cube. No one would believe that Marfa would put a treasure like the Cosmic Cube in a paper bag, and even put a roast chicken in the paper bag. Even the Prince of the Aesir, I'm afraid you should recognize it. Marfa raised the Cosmic Cube in his hand and said. But what was unexpected was that Thor actually showed a confused look on his face. On the contrary, Loki on the side showed an unbelievable look. "Mortal, do you know that you are blaspheming the sacred object?" Loki said with a sullen face. After all, he has been learning magic with Frigga for a long time, and the prerequisite for learning magic is knowledge. Only by understanding a certain amount of knowledge can we better study and use magic. This is why, in those Western fantasy novels, some famous wizards often have their own magic towers, and the magic towers are, without exception, filled with various books. Warriors are relatively simpler, and they only need 1 or 2 rare secret books to become top masters. Obviously, Loki recognized the cosmic cube at a glance. What is that? Thor asked when he saw his brother's expression change drastically. That is the cosmic cube, which once belonged to Asgard. Later, for some unknown reason, it was left in Midgard by my father. I have seen it in the Chronicle of Asgard. Ridiculous, you who missed the throne of the God King of Asgard, have you never seen it? No wonder my father exiled you here. Loki mocked. Thor. Not bad, you are worthy of being the god of trickery. You are indeed more qualified and capable of becoming a king than Thor. Marfa praised. Loki, but so what? Could it be that this thing records the past of Asgard? Thor said immediately. Indeed, if this square box in front of him really belonged to Asgard in the past, then it is not impossible that there are some secrets stored in it. So, what should we do next? Open it? But since it is called the Rubik's Cube, does it have to be twisted and turned? Fortunately, Marfa didn't know what Thor was thinking at the moment, otherwise she would have spat out a mouthful of blood on her face. What do you want? Finally, it was Loki who asked. Of course I will take you to see someone. Didn't I say that? No matter how much I tell you, it's better for you to see her. And the cosmic cube happens to have the ability to break the space barrier and take you there. As soon as the voice fell, a dark blue smoke enveloped the three of them. Soon, the three of them appeared in a space that was unfamiliar to them before. The barren land was barren, and the surroundings were gloomy. Only a half-hidden bright moon in the sky brought some light to this land. Hua-hua, hua-hua. The sound of the sea tide rose and fell. Although it was far away, it could be heard clearly because this space was too quiet. I have been in prison for thousands of years and expelled from my hometown. Now, you dare to break into my territory. What are you doing? The whispered voice suddenly appeared like a spell, and kept lingering in the minds of the three people. Far away in Asgard, Odin, who was in a deep sleep, suddenly opened his eyes. Damn it, someone actually broke in there. Forget it, forget it. It's easy to get in but hard to get out. Even it can be imprisoned there for thousands of years. It's just a ridiculous end. Let you accompany her to relieve her boredom. Thinking of this in his heart, Odin immediately resisted the backlash of divine power and strengthened the seal of the land of death. Soon, he finally couldn't hold on and closed his eyes again. Compared with saving Thor at the Rainbow Bridge, the action just now obviously caused Odin to suffer more serious injuries. Now he urgently needs to have a good sleep to reconcile the runaway divine power in his body. Thor is still training on Earth, and Asgard is now in a period of emptiness. The layout must not allow any problems. The three people in the land of death finally came to the real master. There is no doubt that this is the goddess of death, Hela. P.S. The goddess of death here is not the little bitch-licking dog in the comics, nor is it the one that Thanos has licked for countless years. At this time, Hela's whole body was tied up by countless chains engraved with runes, and above the runes, wisps of golden light continued to linger. Thor and Loki couldn't help but feel very familiar. Obviously, these are all transformed by Odin's power. Chapter 241 Sister and Brother Reunited. Damn little devil, you dare to come here, you really don't know how high the sky is and how deep the earth is. In the middle of the chain, Hela's hair was disheveled and she roared ferociously. The next second, she was seen with a burst of black light all over her body, and her long sword as black as ink suddenly appeared in front of her, and the tip of the sword pointed to the position where Marfa and the other three were. In an instant, a sense of crisis that had never been experienced before instantly enveloped Marfa's heart. Oh no, she has no martial ethics and actually started a fight when she disagreed with someone. This thought flashed through Marfa's mind. But there was a sound of bang. The longsword actually fell directly to the ground. At the same time, the runes on the chain were shining with golden light. There was only a burst of screams, and waves of sound spread out, causing the surrounding dust to fly up. Odin, you old immortal. One day, I will definitely go out, and then I will destroy your hard work, and darkness and death will completely cover the entire Asgard. Hela's extremely high-pitched roar was full of anger and madness. Indeed, anyone who is imprisoned in such a place where no one lives and no one lays eggs for thousands of years would probably be driven crazy. However, this scene was a different feeling for Thor and Loki. Loki was better, after all, he was not a biological child, and he and Hela did not have that kind of blood connection. But what about Thor? They have the same father and mother, even if they were born in different eras, but the feeling of blood connection cannot be deceived. Impossible. Impossible. Could it be that what the Midgardian said before was true? But father. Thinking of his own experience, Thor instantly felt that he could not say the word father anyway. Especially looking at the miserable appearance of Hela in front of him, Thor's eyes were instantly moist. You. Thor followed closely and slowly approached Hela, not paying any attention to the murderous intent in Hela's eyes. No, Thor, don't. Loki stopped just as he opened his mouth. What's wrong with me? It would be best if Thor died, so that I could completely replace him and become the king of Asgard. According to that Midgardian, as long as I follow my father's wishes in everything, I will not be exiled like Thor. In another 1,000 years, no. Maybe not 1,000 years. When my father dies, I can truly rule Asgard and be respected by the 9 realms. And the Queen Mother will only love me. Mine, yes, everything is mine. Let Thor die, it's better to die, and I can have everything when I die. Thinking this in his heart, Loki's body unconsciously took a few steps forward and grabbed Thor, who was gradually walking towards the abyss. Damn it, what's wrong with me? Why don't these damn hands and feet obey? By the way, they must be regretful that Thor died in the hands of others. Yes, that must be the case. Even if Thor didn't die in my hands, he had to die in the trap I set. If he died like this, it would be too easy for him. No one knows what kind of psychological struggle Loki had in this 1,000th of a second. However, it is obvious that the other protagonist of this matter obviously did not intend to accept Loki's kindness. He just shook off Loki's hand and walked forward faster. What's wrong with you, Thor? Don't you love me anymore? I am your sister, cough cough, brother. We agreed to grow old together. We agreed to watch the snow and the moon together, and talk about everything from poetry and songs to the philosophy of life. Oh. Let's not talk about Loki's dangerous thoughts. Hela on the other side was stunned at this time. Hey, I was going to kill you just now. What do you mean by walking towards me with your arms open? I am the goddess of death. Hey. You're pushing it too far, aren't you? You're hugging me. No, is that drool or something? Why are you so wet? I'm telling you, I'm not interested in young hunks. Thor's sudden hug made Hela completely confused, and she was in a mess on the spot. But gradually, the familiar feeling of blood connection from Thor made Hela's heart tremble. Damn old immortal, are you here to laugh at me? Resisting the restraint from the chain, Hela shook her mind and immediately bumped into Thor's head. Thor staggered and almost fell to the ground. Cool. Looking at the scene in front of him, Loki felt an indescribable sense of comfort. Damn bitch, you dare to snatch it from me. No, damn bitch, you actually hurt Thor in front of me. In these 9 realms, I'm the only one who can hurt Thor. Thinking of this, Loki immediately waved his hands, trying to summon his pair of daggers. Unfortunately, no matter how he waved his hands, he found that he could not mobilize the power in his body at all. How? How is it possible? Ha. Ha ha ha. Ha ha. Odin, you old immortal, didn't you tell your stupid son that in my land of death, no one except you and me can use the power of God? Hela mocked Thor. Obviously, Hela didn't know the existence of Thor, her brother. Because of the previous feeling of blood connection, and Thor was a man, Hela subconsciously regarded him as the incarnation of Odin. As for the man who looked about 60% similar to Odin when he was young, it was obvious that he was the stupid son of Odin. Are you really Odin's offspring? Are you really my sister? Finally, Thor came back to his senses at this time and asked in a murmur. Sister? Odin, you. Originally Hela wanted to mock why Odin's acting was so poor, but the next second, Hela reacted. If the person in front of him was really Odin, how could he call him sister? Does the God King have no face? So, you are the offspring of Odin? No wonder. So you came here to mock me as your sister? Now, seeing me like this, are you satisfied? Hela said with a somewhat cold look. No, Hela, you are wrong. Thor Odinson, is not here to mock you or laugh at you. He is here to seek the truth. Like you, he is also an offspring sealed and exiled by Odin because he wanted to fight for the Aesir and establish supreme merits. Marfa, who was a little tired of watching family ethics dramas, finally spoke. Who are you? Let me see. Huh? You are just a Midgardian. How can you speak here? As the voice fell, a black metal particle as big as a date pit quickly condensed in front of Hela. As Hela blew gently, the black metal particle flew towards Marfa like a bullet. Under the heavy confinement and seal of Odin's power, this was the upper limit of the power she could use. Once she used too much power, the runes on the chain would sense it like before, and she would be tortured by the power of the chain again. Seeing that the metal particle was about to hit Marfa, a telekinetic force with a faint purple halo appeared out of thin air and easily blocked Hela's attack. How is it possible? Why can you still use power in the land of death? No, you are not from Midgard. Who are you? Hela exclaimed. Me? I'm just a passerby who can't stand seeing the ghost father bullying his children. Marfa said lightly. And Hela's eyes fell on Thor again. After feeling the confinement seal on Thor, which was similar to hers, Hela couldn't help laughing. Ho ha ho ha. Ho ha ho ha. Ha ho ha. At the end of the laugh, 2 lines of blood and tears could not help but slide from the corners of Hela's eyes. Chapter 242 Hela's Past. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. After 1,000 years, Odin hasn't changed at all. He is so cruel to his offspring again. Hela gritted her teeth and her eyes were filled with anger. Sister, what happened in the end? Why did father lock you up here? Thor said excitedly. Although Thor had vaguely agreed with what Marfa said before after meeting Hela, it involved his father, the supreme existence of Asgard. Thor didn't dare to think about it, and didn't want to believe it. At this moment, he really hoped that Hela would tell him that everything was because Hela made a mistake, not as Marfa said. Father? Ha ha ha. He doesn't deserve this title. As if thinking of some bad memories, Hela clenched her fists for a while. Back then, the 9 realms had not yet been unified, and Asgard was just a small divine realm. As the son of God, I carried the glory of the Aesir and followed Odin with Fenrir to conquer the other 8 divine realms. Jotunheim, Vanaheim, Alfheim. With their combined strength, none of them was finally able to rival Asgard. As she spoke, Hela's eyes seemed to sparkle, and the glory of 1,000 years ago seemed to reappear before her eyes at this moment. Finally, we completely unified the 9 realms. And Odin became the true king of the gods. That day was my 1500th birthday. The entire Asgard was jubilant. However, Muspelheim secretly united with the remnants of Svartalfheim and attacked Asgard. Although we won that battle, we were caught off guard, so there were huge casualties. In a rage, I led my undead army to completely annihilate the remnants of Svartalfheim with the force of thunder, and severely damaged Muspelheim. But during the final interrogation, I found out that this riot was initiated by the fire giants and dark elves who were instigated by other forces outside the 9 realms. Hela said slowly. Damn fire giants and dark elves. No wonder Svartalfheim is now barren. It turns out that it was all your masterpiece. Well done, it's really gratifying. Hearing this, Thor couldn't help but interrupt and said. His eyes were full of yearning. Isn't everything that happened to Hela exactly the same as what happened to him? One was a birthday celebration, the other was a coronation celebration. One was a frost giant, the other was a fire giant and a dark elf. The only difference is probably that Hela destroyed the dark elves and severely damaged the fire giants, while Thor was almost wiped out by Loki's army. In an instant, Hela's image in Thor's eyes became taller. Because of her, the 9 realms are now stable and peaceful. Because of her, the ambitious dark elves and fire giants are unable to fight back. It is also because of her that the treasure of the fire giants, the eternal fire, is burning in Odin's treasury. This is not a sister at all, she is clearly an idol, okay? What happened next? Since you have made such a great contribution, how could you end up like this? Thor asked hurriedly. Later? Humph. After I found out that there were other people supporting the fire giants and dark elves, I immediately organized the army of the undead, ready to completely destroy the enemy and eliminate the trouble forever. But I didn't expect that we would meet Odin and the Valkyrie army before we left the Rainbow Bridge. Odin dismissed my priesthood on the grounds that I threatened the peace and stability of Asgard, and ordered the Valkyries to destroy my army of the undead. Ridiculous. If it weren't for the army of the undead, where would Odin's throne come from? So, I, Fenrir, and all the members of the army of the undead immediately fought to the death. I was too naive at the time, thinking that Odin was just talking on the surface. After all, our trip was to eliminate the internal and external troubles of Asgard. I didn't expect Odin to kill us. Until the end, when most of my army of the undead were killed or injured, I realized that Odin was serious and he really wanted to kill the donkey. When the birds are gone, the good bow is hidden. When the cunning rabbit dies, the running dog is cooked. After Odin used the destroyer armor and Gungnir, I was defeated and imprisoned in the land of the dead. That is what you see now. What about you? How did you fall to the point where your divine power was sealed? He asked back. Haha. Hearing this, Thor couldn't help but smile bitterly. Now, even his last expectation of Odin is completely shattered. After blah blah blah, Thor couldn't help but show a face full of sadness after roughly telling his own experience. Too similar. The experiences of the two siblings are simply too similar. They are really worthy of being brothers from the same mother. Listening to the conversation between the two, Loki's eyes kept dodging. Are they the same? Not completely different. Because Hela has the strength and foresight to lead the army to the expedition. And Thor is more like a low-profile version of Hela. Not only is his strength not good, but he can only mobilize the 4 warriors of Asgard. The most important thing is that his IQ is not good enough. If it weren't for his deception and hints, how could Thor have gone straight to Jotunheim? Fortunately, Thor just said it roughly and didn't mention himself, otherwise with Hela's experience, I'm afraid she would be able to easily see the problem. Loki thought secretly in his heart. It's a pity, I can't protect myself now, I'm afraid I can't help you, at least, you still have freedom, and you still have a friend who is willing to take you to the land of death to seek the truth. What about me? Haha, haha. Hela's laughter was full of bitterness. What about me? What's the situation? Why don't you mention me? Do I have no sense of existence? Hey. Are you kidding me? I am Thor's younger brother. My dear. Loki roared wildly in his heart. And what about Thor? Hearing this, he couldn't help but look at Marfa on the side. Midgardian, thank you for bringing me here. You now have Assi, and me, Thor's friendship. Although I may not be able to repay you now. Can you tell me your name? At least let me remember this. As he spoke, Thor's eyes were filled with loneliness. Marfa Maximov. I tell you the truth, not to ask for anything from you, but to give you power, to give you new power. Of course, it's definitely not here. This place seems very special. Although I can still use my power, it is subject to some restrictions. As for Hela, the respected goddess of death, please forgive me for being unable to do anything about your situation. I'm afraid that only when Odin dies, or he takes the initiative to remove the seal for you, can you be free. Marfa said after a little thought. Death? In that case, I'll take a gamble for you. As long as I can regain my power, I will definitely save you. Thor looked at Hela and said. Save me. At this moment, Hela's cold heart was touched. After thousands of years of being locked up in this uninhabited place, I never thought I could still feel the care from my family. Go away, leave here, never come back, and never seek revenge for Odin. It's impossible, you can't be his opponent. Unless. Hela wanted to dissuade Thor from dying in vain, but then she seemed to think of something. Unless what? Hearing this, Thor's eyes flashed, full of hope. Unless you can defeat Surtur first and throw his crown into the eternal fire in Odin's treasury in Asgard, so that Surtur can be resurrected in Asgard as an elemental body, thus setting off the legendary Ragnarok. Completely destroy Asgard. In my time, all royal families would place part of their souls on the Asgard divine domain. As long as they were in Asgard, they could continuously draw divine power from Asgard to replenish themselves. In a sense, the royal family of the Aesir was invincible in Asgard. And you, obviously, didn't do that. I am the goddess of death, and I have a unique perception of the soul. I can see that your soul is complete. In my opinion, this is probably because that old thief Odin was worried that you would follow my old path, so he didn't perform the ritual for you. And if you want to defeat Odin, you must destroy Asgard first, there is no other way. Chapter 243 Trapped. Ah. This. Hearing this, Thor was stunned. Are you kidding? Only by destroying the entire Asgard can Odin be defeated. As his son, Thor knows exactly how powerful Odin is. The reason why he said that just now was, on the one hand, because he was in the mood. It was like a pair of lovers kissing by the sparkling lake at night, and there was no one else around. Once the mood was reached, some things would happen easily and naturally. In simple terms, the body is more honest than the brain. On the other hand, Thor did want to find Odin to argue and rescue Hela. But what about Hela? She would kill her father if she didn't agree with him. What a filial daughter. If he stood in Hela's position, Thor could understand this suggestion. After all, Odin had tortured him for more than 1,000 years. The so-called flesh and blood gratitude had long disappeared with the pain of every day. Also, if Odin died, how could he prove to Odin that he had made a mistake? Only I, Loki Odinson, was the one he should value and favor. Moreover, although Loki didn't know what Hela said about entrusting part of her soul to Asgard, he knew Odin's strength as well as Thor did. Not to mention that Thor had lost all his power now. Even if he recovered his power and destroyed Asgard by chance, could Thor beat Odin? What a joke. No, this must not be done. He must be stopped. Loki thought firmly in his heart. But what Loki didn't know was that Thor also rejected this suggestion in his heart. How could Thor completely give up this terrible idea of seeking death? Loki frowned, and his mind was full of thoughts. First of all, the simplest thing was to kill Marfa. As long as this Midgardian named Marfa Maximoff died, Thor would not be able to recover his power. In this case, it is naturally impossible to confront Odin. This can be tried later. Even if it doesn't work, the worst that can happen is to let Heimdall open the Rainbow Bridge and run away. Secondly, dangerous things like the Eternal Flame must be sent away from Asgard as soon as possible. As long as the Eternal Flame is not in Asgard, even if Thor recovers his divine power and defeats Surtur of the Fire Giants as Hela said, he cannot be resurrected in Asgard. This is equivalent to saving Asgard. Once Asgard is saved, Thor knows that he can't beat Odin, who has the infinite mana recovery of the Asgard god realm, so naturally there is no possibility of confronting Odin again. After thinking all this through, Loki couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Although both methods are quite troublesome, at least it is still possible to do it. It seems that I thought too much. After all, Hela has been sealed for too long and her brain is confused. She actually made such a suggestion that can't be expressed with her toes. As for Marfa, as a bystander, he obviously has more things to think about. First of all, from Hela's words, Marfa understood why Odin repeatedly told Hela not to return to Asgard in the original plot on the Norwegian coast. If she went back, Hela would have endless power. The power of emotion does not refer to the upper limit of strength, but to endurance. This makes sense. If Hela is really invincible in Asgard, how did Odin seal her before? Secondly, Marfa cannot say that he fully understands Thor's character, but from some performances in the original plot, he can also get a glimpse of it. Obviously, Thor cannot destroy Asgard in order to save Hela. The current situation is not a dead end like the original plot of Thor 3. Frigga was not killed by the remnants of the Dark Elves who woke up from their slumber, Odin is still alive, and Asgard has too many memories and attachments of Thor. How can it be destroyed just by saying it will be destroyed? The person in charge is confused, but the bystander is clear. The reason why Loki thinks Thor might be fooled by Hela is purely because he is in the middle of the situation and is confused by his concern. Otherwise, with Loki's intelligence and understanding of Thor, how could he have such an idea? The current situation is basically within Marfa's plan. It is almost impossible to completely blacken Thor. After all, his father has brainwashed him for more than 1,000 years. Marfa doesn't think that he can completely discredit Odin with a few words or some small tricks. But just like Toby, some things must be done. If you don't do it, it will never be possible. And once you do it, it will have an impact. Once the timing is right, even the slightest impact will be infinitely magnified. Thor, let's go back first. If you disappear in the 9 realms for too long, it will be easy to be noticed by someone with ulterior motives. By then, your chances of saving Hela will be even smaller. Marfa persuaded. Seeing Thor and Loki nod, Marfa immediately took out a cosmic cube again. Instantly, the dark blue smoke rose up again, enveloping the 3 people. Time passed by minute, and unlike before, this time, the 3 people did not tear through space like before and appeared in New York. That? Marfa. Aren't you in a hurry? Let's go. Loki said with a strange look on his face. Marfa. Damn. This is too much? Marfa had already discovered that something was wrong. When he used the cosmic cube before, he could feel countless space nodes. As long as he communicated with those space nodes, the cosmic cube could take him to any place in the universe. Even some secondary planes attached to the main universe were not a problem. But now, the space nodes appeared, but Marfa could not communicate with them. Midgard people, don't tell me that you came here through the cosmic cube. At this time, Hela, who was tied up by chains, saw that something was wrong and spoke immediately. Any problem? Marfa turned around and asked. Haha. Ha-ha. Ha-ha. God's will, this is God's will. Hela laughed sadly, and she looked much older in an instant. Do you know how the seal barrier of the land of death was made? Hela's eyes were dull at this time, and her eyes were full of despair. Just like Thor before, because of Thor's appearance, she saw hope, but now, hope was shattered. Only despair was left. Don't tell me that the cosmic cube had contributed to this. As expected of the god of trickery, he who had read many magic books thought of this at the first time. That's right. The seal of the Land of Death was originally constructed with 108 energy crystals from the cosmic cube. Later, Odin used his divine power to reinforce it. If I'm not mistaken, when you came, you happened to encounter Odin's sleep, so the divine power reinforcement loosened. And now, it is obvious that Odin has discovered your arrival, so he has increased the output of divine power. I'm sorry. I'm afraid you will have to accompany me for hundreds of years. Don't worry, when Odin dies of old age, the four of us will be free. Marfa. Cyrillic letter Dek, Thor. Loki. Greek letter Omega. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 244 Escape Attempt. After being stunned for only a second, Marfa's face once again showed a confident smile. Isn't it just that the cosmic cube can't be used? Then my teleportation ring can always be used. Thinking of this, Marfa immediately put on the teleportation ring. Since it is impossible to communicate with the space nodes, the current teleportation ring cannot teleport to a fixed point, but as long as it can tear the space, it can go anywhere. At worst, after getting out of this ghost place, I can use the cosmic cube or the teleportation ring to teleport back to New York. Seeing the space being torn, Marfa was secretly happy. He blinked at Hela, as if to say, "You see, I have another way." But Hela was silent, smiling darkly in her heart, expecting Marfa to slap her in the face on the spot. Sure enough, when Marfa appeared again through the space crack, it was still a gray and desolate land, the annoying sound of the sea tide, and the moon hanging high in the sky, emitting a hint of coldness. Fuck. Why is it still this damn place? Marfa's roar resounded through the world. On the other side, Thor and Loki originally planned to follow Marfa through the space crack, but were stopped by Hela. Wait a minute, I think that kid can't get out. As soon as the voice fell, Marfa's angry roar came from a distance. What should we do? In an instant, the hearts of the two were immediately covered with a shadow. After a moment, Marfa looked lost and staggered back to the crowd. Now there's only one way to go back, that is, the couple ring with the same teleportation function. Couple ring, durability. 7/7, required level, none, special effects. 1. The ring is worn on the ring finger of the left hand and does not occupy the equipment bar. 2. Couples wearing this ring can pull each other to their side regardless of the distance in space, and the cooling time is 24 hours. Each use consumes 1 point of durability, and the equipment cannot be repaired. Because Marfa completed the hidden task before, he now has the team chat function. Gwen, as Marfa's focus, the object of attention, was naturally pulled into the chat group by Marfa. As long as Marfa shouted in the group, Gwen could naturally pull herself back through the couple ring. In this way, it was not difficult for Marfa to escape from the land of death. But the problem was Thor. The couple ring was different from the teleportation ring. It could only pull a single person, not tear the space. It was also because of this that Marfa dared to be sure that the couple ring would be able to ignore the barrier of the land of death and take Marfa away from this ghost place. But in this way, Thor and Loki could never go back. In other words, Marfa's layout for so long was all in vain. The plot of Thor 1 not only did not bring any benefits to Marfa, but also wasted a teleportation opportunity of the couple ring. Midgard boy, how is the scenery of my land of death? Hela teased at this time. Obviously, Marfa's winking at her just now had been recorded by Hela in her little notebook. Marfa was speechless for a moment. Although I don't know why you can use your power in this land of death, you must know that the cosmic cube is the carrier of the space stone. Since it is a cage made of the energy crystal of the cosmic cube, it is impossible to get out of here by ordinary space means. Hela said in a deep voice. Impossible? Then how did Hela get out of here in the original plot? Even if Odin died and the chains on her body failed, the energy crystal of the space stone was still there. Marfa thought of this in an instant. You are the goddess of death, and this is the land of death. Don't tell me this was originally your territory. After thinking for a moment, Marfa said. What do you think? I'm not like my stupid brother. Thousands of years ago, when I was fighting in the 9 realms, I set my sights on Hell, the land of the dead, one of the 9 realms. I knew that the king of the Aesir would never be passed on to a woman, so I asked Odin at that time, hoping that he would make Hel my fiefdom. But I didn't expect that Odin would refuse in the end. Instead, I imitated Hel and used the fruit core of the world tree to open up a different space in Midgard, which is now the land of the dead, as my fiefdom. Thor. Loki. This guy is so annoying. Why can you entrust your soul to Asgard like Odin? Why can you have an exclusive fiefdom? Why can you lead an army? Especially Loki, the sense of imbalance in his heart became stronger. After all, Thor still has Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, and 4 loyal men. Looking at the pair of daggers in his hands, oh, this was made from the parts that Loki removed from the original long-handled Thor's hammer. Odin's attitude towards his children is simply worse than the other. The eldest, Hela, has the artifacts, the night sky sword and the long-handled Mjolnir, a fiefdom, a legion, a Mount Fenrir, and even a soul-sending ceremony. The second child, Thor, has the artifact, the short-handled Mjolnir, a child bride, Sif, and the 4 warriors of Asgard. And what about me, the third child? Is there any hair? Is there any hair? Not even a single hair. So angry. So angry. The more I think about it, the angrier I get. As the saying goes, there is no harm without comparison, and Loki is now in such a state of mind. Regardless of how Loki feels, Marfa understands it. The land of the dead was originally Hela's fiefdom, which means that as the owner of this territory, she naturally has a backdoor to get out. What really trapped Hela was not the enchantment of the land of death, but the chains on her body. The chains almost sealed all of Hela's strength, so she could not get rid of the chains, and she could not use her divine power to open the back door. In the original plot, after Odin's death, the chains were no longer enough to completely seal Hela. As long as Hela had a slight burst, she could easily break it. The enchantment of the land of death is made of the energy crystals of the cosmic cube as bricks and tiles, and Odin's divine power as steel bars. It is not difficult for Hela, who has already mastered the back door of the land of death, to knock down a building without steel bars. In other words, if the chains on Hela can be temporarily ineffective. Thinking of this, Marfa's mind became active. After all, the chains are only maintained by Odin's divine power. Just like the 5 elements mountain that pressed down the monkey in mythology, if it were not for the old monk's mantra talisman to maintain it, the monkey would have run out long ago. But is a mere mantra talisman really that powerful? In Marfa's opinion, it should be that the old monk often replenishes the talisman with spiritual power remotely, so as to maintain the effectiveness of the talisman and maintain its effect. And now, all Marfa has to do is to put a layer of cover on the 5 elements mountain to make the confinement chains become rootless. Without the support of Odin's power, as long as everyone works together, they will surely be able to wear down the durability of the confinement chains. Thinking of this, Marfa couldn't help but sink his mind into the sea of consciousness. The familiar BGM sounded, and Marfa appeared in front of the heavy stone door again. The target is trapped in the spell level 3, and the level is increased to level 35. Chapter 245 Zuma Temple. Zuma Temple is located in the northwest corner of Mengzhong Province. In the past, in the legend game, if you want to run from Biki Province to Mengzhong Province, even if you use a random teleportation scroll, it will take a lot of effort. But now Marfa has a teleportation ring, so this is not a difficult task for him. Open the map and focus your consciousness on the junction of Biki Province and Viper Valley. Swoosh. When you appear again, you have already flown across thousands of mountains and rivers. After saying hello to the tool man who has no feelings for Muda, the archer guard, Marfa immediately came to the Viper Valley map. As a very unique map in the legend game, the underground of the Viper Valley can be said to be connected in all directions. The Bone Demon Cave of Kangayu Island, the Centipede Cave of Biki Province, and even the unknown Dark Palace can all be passed through this underground world. Of course, this is not Marfa's goal this time. Using the teleportation ring again, Marfa immediately came to the junction of Biki Province and Viper Valley. Similarly, after teasing the archer guard, Marfa crossed the border and came to Biki Province. Strange to say, in Marfa's opinion, the setting of the legend game is really a bit strange. Normally, the location of the king must be the capital. And the capital often means the largest population and the most complete functions, and it will also become a place for players to communicate and gather. But the setting of legend is very strange. The king is located in Biki City, and Biki City is also surrounded by green mountains and trees. It is a well-deserved capital. But what about Mengzhong province? Not to mention that it is located in the desert, water resources are scarce, and even the city walls are made of clay, which is exactly like the ancient city of Laolan. But it is precisely in this extremely harsh environment that there are two main cities. One is naturally the city with the most players gathering Mengzhong Tuchin, and the other is the player-exclusive city that countless players yearn for Shabuk. In the legend game, players can establish guilds, and Marfa also has the props for establishing guilds, which is the drop of the Womar cult master Womar Horn. The nephew of the father-in-law of the second cousin of the younger brother of the wife's younger brother who was guarding the bow and arrow wanted to establish his own power, so he issued such a task to Marfa to find the Womar Horn. Once the player establishes a guild, if he can get the Zuma head, the drop of the Zuma leader, he can apply for siege. If the siege is won, the ownership of the city of Shabuk can be obtained. Players belonging to the Shabuk forces can get discounts on all consumption in the city of Shabuk, and can even return to Shabuk through the guild return scroll. You know, the return scroll can only be dropped by killing monsters, while the guild return scroll can be purchased in the store. In this way, Shabuk City naturally became the existence that all players yearn for. Of course, there is another very important thing, that is, Shabuk City has the only advanced forger in the whole game. Through him, you can upgrade your weapons. In other words, if you are a hostile player of the Shabuk forces, it is almost impossible to upgrade your weapons. Such an important city was actually built in a desert where no one lives, which really puzzled Marfa. Soon, Marfa arrived at the entrance of Zuma Temple through the third teleportation of the teleportation ring. Unlike the Woma Temple, which only has a cave-like entrance, Zuma Temple is obviously much more spectacular. Looking at the building in front of him that looks like a super ancient ruins, Marfa couldn't help but sigh inwardly. It's really worthy of being Zuma Temple. Just this appearance is more than one level higher than Woma Temple. Of course, all the old players of Legend know that the ground buildings are always a drop in the bucket for these evil gods' residences. The real highlight is the underground. Stepping on the long stone steps, Marfa quickly stepped into the Zuma Temple. The first thing that came into view was a pair of vigorous brushstrokes, with dragons and snakes flying between the strokes. The upper couplet says, "Jade is not polished without light." The lower couplet says, "Jingwen Zijai." I still remember that a good player added a horizontal banner to it, saying, "Double load without sleep." As for the restoration of the legendary game, Marfa, who was at a loss for words at this time, could only use the words awesome or wow to describe it. Apart from anything else, just a couplet in front of him made Marfa seem to have returned to the green days when he was brushing in the Zuma Temple. Going down the stone steps, the scene of the first floor of the Woma Temple suddenly appeared in front of Marfa. On the blue brick paved ground, there were skeletons every 3 steps and ruins every 5 steps. Just a glance made people feel creepy. From the scene of the broken walls and corpses everywhere, it can be seen that there must have been a large group of brave men who had been here. It's a pity that they didn't get out of here alive in the end. Here, Marfa was secretly sad, and in the corner, a pair of red eyes were staring at Marfa, and a little bit of fierce light was about to burst out. Swoosh! In the blink of an eye, a brown figure shot towards Marfa like a sharp arrow. Squeak! Squeak! Then came the shots from all sides. "Come on!" Marfa raised his lips slightly, and immediately stuffed the Wuji stick into his backpack, and took out the Marfa exclusive weapon customized by Tony Stark for Gay Love the Chainsaw, Bald Kayang. 1, -1, -1, -1. In an instant, a number like a red cloud floated over the head of the brown figure. In less than 1 second, it turned into a corpse and lay in front of Marfa. Brother Kayang's chainsaw, the supreme master of the martial arts, commands the world, and no one dares to disobey. At this moment, an inexplicable sense of heroism surged into Marfa's heart again. A mere Zuma leader, how many seconds can you hold my brother Kayang? Chainsaw, Bald Kayang. The 16-inch sawdisc has 120 teeth. If one tooth is used for 1 point of damage, one rotation of the sawdisc will cause 120 points of health. The speed of Guangtao Kayang's sawdisc is 50,000 revolutions per minute, which means that the damage per second is 10,000 points. Throughout the entire legendary game, how many people have more than 10,000 health points? Squeak! Squeak! The roar of the motor resounded throughout the first floor of the Zuma Temple at this moment. This huge movement immediately attracted the monsters on the first floor of the temple to gather here. The first to bear the brunt was a group of Rata. The big rat, commonly known as Rata, is the most common monster in the first few floors of the Zuma temple. Its body is like a 6-year-old child, with brown hair all over its body. Its tail is as thick as an adult's arm and is nearly 70 centimeters long. Its red eyes, sharp claws and fangs give people a feeling that it is not easy to mess with. Come on. Shouting, Marfa immediately turned on the power of the chainsaw to the maximum, and rushed into the sea of rats like a sharp blade. -1, -1, -1, -1. Fortunately, this is not a computer game, otherwise the dense blood-deducting prompts floating overhead would be enough to crash the server. Experience plus 330, plus 330, plus 330, plus 330. Cool. Chapter 246, No Martial Ethics. With chainsaw in hand, the world is mine. This is the first time that Marfa has used Brother Kyang to level up. Apart from the word cool, Marfa can no longer think of other words to describe his feelings at this moment. Wedge Moth, Sizzle. 1, -1, -1. Experience plus 350. Big Rat, Sizzle. 1, -1, -1. Experience plus 330. Gradually, Marfa felt numb. Whenever a monster approaches, wave Brother Kyang, Sizzle. Then a dense massive -1s will float by, and then, pick up equipment and gold coins. The whole person is like a tool man without emotions. No, I can't go on like this, I want to be a salted fish with dreams. At this time, Marfa subconsciously waved Brother Kyang while moving deeper into the passage. His mind was full of Ivan making him another chainsaw. This time, it doesn't have to be as high-end as Guangtao Kyang's. It only needs to be made of gold titanium alloy. In terms of appearance, it is probably like the rings of Saturn. When the time comes, just put it on Xiaobei, and a ring-shaped electric saw will rotate and cut around Xiaobei's body. At that time, you only need to sit aside and think about life. When you kill monsters, you can order Xiaobei to circle back and forth. That experience. Just thinking about it makes me a little excited. Yes, that's right, I must make a ring-shaped electric saw when I go back. Thinking like this in my heart, Marfa has come to the 3rd floor of the Zuma temple unknowingly. But when Marfa walked past a stone statue, he saw that the stone statue was resurrected. The next second. But I saw a Fangyan Huaji wrapped in thunder and lightning, sweeping towards Marfa. Fuck you. Although there is a unique combat mechanism in the game, even if you are hit, it will only reduce blood. Unless the opponent's damage is enough to kill Marfa instantly, it will not cause any fatal injuries. But being stabbed in the chest by such a majestic weapon still made Marfa break out in a cold sweat. He looked closely and saw a monster with a sheep's head and a human body, wearing chain mail, holding a Fangyan Huaji and glaring at him. Good fellow. How dare you scare me? Marfa has recognized it. It is the unique monster in the Zuma temple, the Zuma statue. Well, it looks pretty scary. 495 HP. Marfa raised the chainsaw tremblingly and pushed it towards the Zuma statue. 1, -1, -1. The red numbers floated across the sky, and the Zuma statue fell down. It's over. This game is over. I'm fucking invincible. Looking at the bald Kyang in his hand speechlessly, Marfa felt mixed emotions for a while. If he attacked normally, even if Marfa was wearing top-grade weapons now, he would have to hit it more than 10 times with his Soulfire Talisman to kill a Zuma statue. But what about now? Instantly, Marfa felt that this game was not fun. However, as long as he thought about it, the strength gained in the game can be brought to reality. It's so good. Comrades, work harder. Hey hey. Singing the tune full of the sense of the times, Marfa immediately turned on the motor of the chainsaw again. Boom, boom, the motor roared continuously, and the saw blade rotated at high speed. Those who didn't know would think that it was another second-generation young man who drove a sports car out to pick up girls. Skull ring? Useless. Taoist bracelet? Don't like it. Death gloves? Trash. Coral ring? Take up the backpack. The equipment on the ground continued to emit a little light. In the past, Marfa would have picked them up long ago. Even if he couldn't use them, it would be good to sell them to the store for some gold coins. However, these are really a bit useless for Marfa, who is now completely arrogant. Even picking them up and running to the store to sell them is troublesome for Marfa. The space on the third floor of Zuma is quite large, so large that Marfa's hands were numb from the shock of the chainsaw while she was slaying monsters. Fortunately, hard work pays off. Although the process is boring and painful, the experience value is still very gratifying. In less than 1,000 minutes, Marfa's level has reached 31. Not bad, not bad. I should have brought Brother Kyang here to swipe monsters and level up. If I had this awareness before, like Jin Bing, I still can't beat him. Like Mark IV, it seems that it's not easy to beat. Like Electric Man, I could easily kill him before. Oh. Why do I feel like I'm still a rookie after upgrading a few levels? Here, Marfa was still secretly sad, but heard a sound of breaking through the air in the distance. Then, a sharp arrow with a slight sound of breaking through the air shot towards Marfa. 7. The bright red number floated over Marfa's head. Fuck. The next second, Marfa covered his crotch with one hand and supported his body with the electric sword with the other. Damn it, that bastard has no martial ethics and dared to shoot my eagle. Fortunately, there is no pain in the game world, and the healing technique can completely heal any wound on the body without damaging its original function. Otherwise, Marfa could go to the ceiling of the old house in Zhangyang Lane to find the legendary sword manual. Puff. Marfa pulled the arrow off the eagle without saying a word, and then the healing technique was immediately thrown on it. In an instant, a blue and green light ball immediately appeared on the top of the eagle's head. A little bit of fluorescent light fell, and the eagle raised its head as if nothing happened. Huh? Marfa breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, it's not in the real world. Patting his chest, Marfa thought with some fear. Immediately, his eyes were instantly filled with something called anger. The killing intent, as if it were real, escaped from Marfa's body at this moment. I want to kill. Puff. Another arrow shot out from the dark corner. Little guy, it's endless, isn't it? How can I, Marfa Maximov, let my eagle get hurt again? Muttering in his mouth, Marfa did not dare to neglect his actions. At this moment, the bald Kyang made of vibranium and gold titanium alloy was blocked by Marfa. Since it was designed to look like a big sword, Marfa used it as a shield without hesitation. Ling. The crisp sound of metal clashing sounded. 1. Although Marfa had successfully blocked the opponent's attack, the system still judged Marfa to have 1 point of mandatory damage. Die for me. As soon as the words fell, Marfa rushed towards the dark corner like a cannonball. When he got closer, he saw a monster with a sheep's head and a human body, a quiver on his back, and a bow and arrow in his hand standing there. Zuma Archer. It's you, you bastard. When enemies meet, they are particularly jealous. Marfa immediately raised his strong brother and chopped directly at the Zuma Archer. 1. -1, -1, -1. Experience value plus 420. Looking at the mage necklace called magnifying glass under the Zuma Archer, Marfa couldn't help but smile coldly. It's confirmed that this guy is definitely an LSP. He actually shot my eagle with a magnifying glass. It's simply unkind and unethical. You'll get what you deserve. Too lazy to pick up the inferior equipment, Marfa stepped over the Zuma Archer, and at the end, he stepped on his head and jumped a few times. Go to hell and repent. Marfa waved his sleeves and murmured with a cold look. But the next second, another arrow attacked Marfa from behind. Good guy, come again. Marfa immediately summoned Xiaobei and asked him to block the attack for him. As expected, all the Zuma archers were LSP. At this time, Xiaobei had an arrow stuck in the bone between his legs. Kakara. Xiaobei was confused, waved the rusty and bloody axe in his hand, looked at Marfa, and then looked at the Zuma Archer. Finally, he picked up the axe and walked towards the position of the Zuma Archer with his somewhat weird steps. Well, it's a good thing that it's just a newbie in the game without independent thinking. If it was the one in reality, I'm afraid it wouldn't have attacked the Zuma Archer first, but would have attacked its master first. Seeing this scene, Marfa couldn't help but think. Chapter 247, Divine Beasts and Horned Flies. Perhaps it was because the world consciousness of the legendary world also realized that the problem faced by Marfa this time was quite serious. Or perhaps Marfa's previous series of operations had plundered a lot of willpower for the world consciousness of the legendary world, making the legendary world no longer what it used to be. In short, knowing that Marfa was cheating, the world consciousness not only did not punish or ban him, but instead accelerated the refresh frequency of monsters in the Zuma Temple, so that Marfa actually slaughtered monsters for more than 4,000 minutes without stopping. In the end, even Marfa himself couldn't stand it. More than 4,000 minutes, that's nearly 3 days and 3 nights. If Marfa's physical fitness hadn't been so different from the past, just such a high-intensity 3-day logging work would be enough to make him exhausted. On the 5th floor of the Zuma Temple, after clearing the last monster, Marfa almost fainted. God knows what he had experienced in the previous 4,000 minutes. Fortunately, hard work pays off. At this time, Marfa's level has reached level 35, and even with about 80% of experience, he can be promoted to level 36. After a short rest, Marfa immediately took out 5 amulets from the storage backpack. Marfa raised the amulets in his hand, and in an instant, the 5 amulets immediately floated above Marfa's head, and automatically lined up in a row and turned in circles. While the amulets were spinning, a mysterious magic circle also appeared in front of Marfa. The next second, a ferocious beast with a red body, scales and antlers appeared in front of Marfa. Looking closely, he saw that the beast was surrounded by fire, and the scorching heat made Marfa dry his mouth. There is no doubt that this is the new skill of the Taoist at level 35, summoning the beast. Since the original research and development team of the game Legend of Mir 2 was from Korea, they originally wanted to make the model of the beast into the legendary sacred beast in China, the unicorn. But after all, Korea is Korea. Even if the entire universe was created by them, it is difficult to get the essence of the plagiarized culture. So, there was this Urho with antlers and scales in front of Marfa. Ahem, I'll call you Xia Hong from now on. Looking at the red Urho in front of him, Marfa couldn't help but look embarrassed. After all, it is impossible to achieve 100% restoration from the second dimension to the third dimension. Just like in the previous life, some people with good intentions built 3-dimensional models for Pikachu, Bulbasaur, Charmander and other 2-dimensional cute creatures. The effect was horrible. Can you believe that it is really a yellow-haired mouse and a toad with a potted plant on its back? Fortunately, Xia Hong is not that miserable, at least Urha is still very cute. Woo woo. I don't know if the mythical beast Xia Hong also felt the resentment from his master, and immediately began to woo woo, and that look, more like Urha who made a mistake. Cyrillic letter deck, okay, don't feel wronged, let me go in. As soon as the voice fell, Marfa kicked Xia Hong's butt and kicked her directly into the next floor. There's number 6th floor in Zuma Temple, or the 6th floor is special. Old players know that the 6th floor of Zuma Temple is also called Zuma Pavilion. This is a very strange maze. Zuma Pavilion is a square room that is 10 meters long and 10 meters wide. It can be said that you can see the end at a glance. And in the center of the 4 sides of the square, there is a door on each side. The reason why it is weird is that no matter which of the 4 doors you choose, the place you go to is still Zuma Pavilion, and even the layout inside is exactly the same as the previous room. Of course, in fact, when you walk into the door, you are no longer in the original space. If it is just like this, it is nothing. The most important thing is that each door has a unique spatial law. If you choose a door to go in, and then immediately come out from the same door, congratulations, you are no longer in the same room as before. It can be said that Zuma Pavilion itself is a special existence consisting of many identical spaces connected by doors with spatial power. When the Zuma Temple map was first opened, I don't know how many players were in the dark as soon as they entered Zuma Pavilion and could not find the way out. If you don't have a dungeon escape scroll or a return scroll at this time, then I'm sorry, except for the mage with the skill of teleportation, you can only die. Fortunately, this situation did not last too long, and the wisdom of the players is infinite. Soon a guild organized a large number of players and began to crack the secrets of Zuma Pavilion with human sea tactics. For any maze, when there are enough players exploring at the same time and they can keep in touch with each other, it is only a matter of time before it is conquered. And what about Marfa? He is naturally not an elite player who has joined a large guild, but the network in his previous life has already made public the way to go in Zuma Pavilion. When he came to the first room of Zuma Pavilion, Marfa was immediately stunned. What came into view was the densely packed, shoulder-to-shoulder monsters. Fortunately, Marfa kicked Xia Hong in first to resist the damage, otherwise Marfa might have been killed by these monsters right after entering the door. You know, I am a strong brother in society, and I will definitely kill monsters in seconds, but the problem is, what if you encounter densely packed monsters from all directions? No matter how high your damage is, it will take time to swing a chainsaw. What's more, the reason why there are so many monsters in Zuma Pavilion is undoubtedly that the two horned flies in the center of the monster pile have played a huge role. Horned flies, although they are called flies, actually can't fly or even move. They look like a piece of meat that keeps wriggling, with blood and flesh flying, which is extremely disgusting. Compared with the cave maggots, they are even worse. Just above the meat, it is like a mouth, constantly spewing out small bats. These bats have very low damage. Even with Marfa's current attributes, even if they are hit, they will only symbolically lose 1 or 2 points of blood. Even this kind of small bat spit out by the hornfly not only has a pitiful attack power, but also has a defense in blood volume that is as low as the floor in the entire legendary game. It is no exaggeration to say that even if the chickens from the Novus village come, there is no pressure at all to fight 5 or 6 at the same time. However, if you underestimate the hornfly, you are wrong. The ants bite the elephant to death, and the hornfly plays the bat-sea tactic. Each attack only has 1 point of blood, 2 points of blood, right? It doesn't matter, I have 100, 1,000. As long as you give the hornfly enough time, it can give birth to small bats that make you doubt the number of people. Seeing the dark mass of bats in front of him, like a dark cloud, even Marfa couldn't help but take a breath. Beside his ears, the flapping sound of wings was endless. There were already countless bats perched on Xia Hong's body, and they began to bite like crazy. Fortunately, it was Xia Hong with high HP and high defense. If it was Xiao Bei, he would have been reduced to bone dregs. Occasionally, there were bursts of fire in the bat group that caught Marfa's eyes. Without asking, he knew that it was Xia Hong fighting back. At this time, Xia Hong was no longer a husky. It had been on all fours before, but now it had stood up, its muscles bulging, like a sturdy man with a dog's head and a human body, spewing out flames as if they were free. Each flame could burn several small bats to death. However, this was too little for the thousands of small bats in front of him. No, I can't play with a chainsaw this time. Playing with a chainsaw will make you cold. Marfa thought it was not good, and immediately stuffed Brother Kyan back into the storage backpack and changed to the Wuji stick again. At the same time, he did not forget to take a picture of the amulet for himself. Invisibility. Seeing his figure disappearing faintly, Marfa breathed a sigh of relief. Low HP, right. Dense, right. At this moment, the corners of Marfa's mouth could not help but slightly raise, and a talisman suddenly appeared in his palm. Soulfire Talisman. Boom. The explosion sounded, causing the entire Zuma Pavilion to tremble. Thanks to the blessing of the improved version of the mental force combat method, Marfa's Soulfire Talisman skill has long changed from single target damage to range damage skill. Artist Patrick. Boom. Another Soulfire Talisman. In an instant, the bodies of the bats in the sky fell like raindrops. Experience value +5, +5, +5, +5. Looking at the dense experience value that is not inferior to the damage caused by Brother Kyan, Marfa's mouth corners could not help but slightly raise. In just 2 times, the experience value progress bar has risen by nearly 4%. Is there anything more exciting than this? It seems that setting the goal at level 35 before seems too conservative. Maybe level 36 is not impossible. Marfa thought secretly in his heart. Chapter 248 Zuma Pavilion. Marfa is a legendary old player, but not a high-level player. It is very simple to walk from Zuma Pavilion to the 7th floor of Zuma Temple. Just go left up 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 right and go through 5 doors in this order. Back then, those so-called high-level players could quickly walk out of Zuma Pavilion no matter which room they put it in. Marfa obviously couldn't do this. Once he went to the wrong door, Marfa could only use the return scroll to leave and then climb the stairs again from the 1st floor. Fortunately, even if there are only 5 rooms, as long as there are about the same number of monsters as in the first room, it is still enough to support Marfa to level 36. After opening the map and looking at the direction, Marfa decisively kicked Xia Hong into the door on the left, and then followed in. Duong. -45. But before Marfa could put on the invisibility spell for himself, he felt a buzzing in his head. Turning his head, he saw a monster holding a warhammer, wearing steel armor, and with a sheep's head on his neck. He was raising the warhammer in his hand high, obviously to hit Marfa again. There is no doubt that this is the Zuma Guard, which is a characteristic monster of the Zuma Temple, just like the Zuma statue. The Zuma Guard, as the existence in the Zuma temple is second only to the Zuma master in strength, and it is quite impressive. Apart from anything else, the long-handled warhammer in his hand is much more imposing than Thor's Meow Meow hammer. Good guy, he actually sneaked up. Marfa thought it was not good, and immediately cast an invisibility spell on himself. Seeing that the hammer was about to hit Marfa's head again, Marfa's figure gradually disappeared. Without the target of attack, the eyes of the Zuma guard became confused. But soon, this confusion disappeared. Without Marfa, there was still Xiao Hong. The next second, the hammer came down heavily, with the force of thunder and lightning, and hit Xiao Hong's head. Xiao Hong's whole dog, cough cough, the whole beast, couldn't help but stagger. Oh! How cruel! Seeing this scene, Marfa couldn't help but silently mourn for Xiao Hong. Immediately, he no longer cared about the Zuma guards, and immediately hit the Soul Fire Talisman twice, clearing the little bats in the sky. Without the interference of the little bats, Marfa soon saw the scene in the second Zuma pavilion clearly. There were not too many monsters, less than 20. Except for 3 of them that were still spitting out little bats, the rest of the monsters were almost all around Xiao Hong. Some used Fang Yanhua Ji to poke her in the buttocks, some used hammers to hide her head, and some bent bows and arrows to shoot her crotch. In short, Alice, you have suffered, Xiao Hong. Marfa sighed secretly. Immediately, he put the Wuji stick back into the storage backpack and took out the artifact again. Guang Tao Kang. Boom, boom, the roar of the motor sounded, and in less than 1 minute, the more than 20 monsters were lying in a pool of blood, unable to move. Brother Kang in the society, he can kill them in seconds. After cleaning up the monsters, Marfa immediately began to clean up the battlefield. After all, Zuma Pavilion is different from other places. Not only are there a lot of clothes dropped, but there's even a chance to meet elite Zuma guards. Now Marfa is wearing just an ordinary soul battle suit, so he is naturally very concerned about the monsters that may drop clothes. Soon, among the bat corpses all over the ground, Marfa found a particularly dazzling light. Gold. Golden legend. He rubbed his eyes in disbelief, and when he found that it was indeed a piece of equipment suitable for him, Marfa immediately became interested. Titan ring, top quality, durability. 2/5, attack. 0 and 3, +3, magic. 2-6, magic required. 24. Fuck. It's the Titan ring. Looking at the simple and elegant metal ring in his hand, Marfa couldn't help but feel happy. The most important thing is that it is a top quality. Rings have always been one of Marfa's heart knots. If it were anyone else, they would not be happy if they were level 35 and still had a level 7 equipment, a glass ring. However, although the glass ring is low level and low grade, it is indeed a top quality. Apart from other things, Marfa couldn't change it just for the 0 to 3 magic bonus. Now that I have a Titan ring, why do I need a glass ring? I'll stay where I want. Although I didn't get any good clothes, I was still very satisfied with getting such a top quality ring. Contentment is the key to happiness. After all, it is impossible for ordinary Zuma monsters to drop high-level goods like the Titan ring. So the only explanation is that one of the corpses of the monsters in front of him is an elite Zuma guard. But, well, under the power of the chainsaw, these monsters were killed instantly, and Marfa couldn't tell which one was the elite Zuma guard who dropped the ring. Poor elite Zuma guard died without any dignity. Soon, Marfa walked out of the mysterious Zuma pavilion at the cost of the lives of 4 little reds. Next, it was not far from the final goal. Looking at his experience bar that was already 50%, and looking at the remaining more than 800 minutes of game time, Marfa was full of confidence. Isn't it just level 36? Coming out of the Zuma pavilion is the first of the 7th floor of Zuma. If there is 1, there must be 2, and if there is 2, there must be 3. That's right, the 7th floor is composed of 3 not too long passages. And the most frightening? No, it should be the most pleasing to Marfa. The monsters in the 7th floor are so many. Even without the little bat monsters, there are still many of them. Come on, let's do something big. Unlike before, this time, Marfa is no longer a mindless monster farm, because the real destination, the Zuma Master's house, is right in front of us. The final boss of the Zuma temple, the Zuma Master, is washing his neck and waiting for the chainsaw to arrive. On the other side, New Mexico. Clark didn't know what kind of situation Marfa was facing at this time. Barton, Sitwell, how long do you think we have to wait? The director gave this operation to Marfa, but he ran away. We are left here waiting stupidly. This is really. Clark complained in the temporary office. But what he got in return was Barton's roll of the eyes. As an agent, you have to be able to endure loneliness. Now that you have changed your name, have you lost even the most basic professional qualities? Barton is obviously a serious person, and his preaching tone is exactly the same as Nick Fury. Damn it, why are you so arrogant? Isn't he just a little better than me in skills? Isn't he a little more handsome than me? Isn't he just one level higher than me? Isn't he just... Oh? That's not right. I was obviously complaining about him. How did it become a compliment? Could it be? Clark seemed to have thought of something and immediately glanced at Barton secretly. Fortunately, I didn't think he was handsome. What the hell is my brain thinking about all day? Clark thought secretly in his heart. Clark is right. It's not a solution for us to just guard a broken hammer like this. Since Marfa is not here for the time being, I suggest that the three of us, as the highest level agents in the camp, can temporarily set up a decision-making group. Any decision will be decided by the three of us voting. What do you think? Sitwell proposed. I agree. Clark was the first to raise his hand in favor. I have no objection. Seeing that the other two agreed, Barton could only echo. Little did he know that Sitwell was actually very happy at this time. Sitwell is a level 8 agent, Barton is also level 8, and as for Clark, he is only level 7. Clark's character and loyalty to Nick Fury are naturally beyond reproach, but SHIELD can't just rely on flattery to get promoted. Sitwell himself is very capable, and with Pierce's support behind him, it's not easy for him not to be in a high position. As for Barton, he is a ruthless person. He can reach level 8, which is all due to his solid merits. Since Marfa is not here, it is common sense that Sitwell and Barton should be in charge together. But in this way, Sitwell can't do a lot of tricks. For example, let the people of Hydra study the Meow Hammer at close range. So he came up with such an idea. Sitwell has been dealing with Clara for many years, and he knows her character very well. As long as it doesn't violate her bottom line, Clark will agree with Sitwell's decision more than Barton. In this way, isn't it in his power? Chapter 249 Zoom Occult Leader. As a department under the Security Council that is responsible for special events, S.H.I.E.L.D. said that it was stationed here to deal with emergencies. In fact, it has already conducted various studies on the Meow Hammer. Although S.H.I.E.L.D.'s technology cannot destroy the Meow Hammer for the time being, it can still be done by electrifying it, heating it up, or using various detectors to check the structure of the hammer. Of course, the result is not ideal. In addition to proving that no one can move this hammer, the most useful conclusion is that this hammer is emitting a special electromagnetic wave all the time. Since it is an electromagnetic wave, it is easy to deal with. The first thing Sitwell thought of was the group of electric light people who had just been transferred to Pierce by Baron Strucker 2 days ago. Alexander Pierce gave the electrolyte people serum given to him by Marfa to Baron Strucker in the Hydra branch in Sokovia. This move undoubtedly slapped Strucker in the face. Look, you've worked so hard to get flush, but I've got so much serum in one go. Does it hurt? You're useless. But unexpectedly, this move greatly stimulated Baron Strucker, allowing him to complete the transformation from serum to combat power in just 1 week. Because Strucker was too eager to speed up the injection of the electroserum, many accidents occurred in the experiment, resulting in 30 serums, but only 20 electro fighters were created in the end. But no matter what, they're all super-powered people. It only took 1 week to create a team of electro fighters, which was undoubtedly a return of the game to Pierce. Can Pierce feel happy? Obviously not. But what can he do if he is not happy? He can't give up this group of super-powered warriors. But in this way, the problem comes again, that is, how to let this group of super-powered warriors mix into SHIELD under reasonable circumstances. And it is better to have a high status after entering, so that they can play a better role in the next layout. If it was just 1 or 2 superpowers, Pierce might be able to find an excuse, but there were 20 people, and their abilities were exactly the same. If Nick Fury couldn't find anything, wouldn't it be useless? Obviously, after seeing the research report on Meow Meow Hammer, Sitwell began to think about Meow Meow Hammer. Meow Meow Hammer has a special magnetic field, which is obviously an alien object. If a group of newly recruited agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. touched Meow Meow Hammer for some reason, causing Meow Meow Hammer to run away. Thunder and lightning struck, and 20 people were stunned. This is reasonable. What if, by chance, those 20 people gain the ability to control electric current after being stunned? This is also reasonable. In addition to the foolproof identity information that Sitwell prepared for them, wouldn't these 20 electric warriors be able to enter the middle level of S.H.I.E.L.D. naturally? Even Hela abused his power for personal gain and picked a few as his bodyguards. This is not too much? When the inside plan is launched, the Electro Warriors will jump out one by one, replacing the Crossbones in the original plot, Brock Rumlow, and control S.H.I.E.L.D. by means of Thunderbolt. Isn't this wonderful? In the past, Sitwell would not have taken such a risky move. After all, with Marfa, everything can be done slowly. However, the recent behavior of Black Sauce Egg has touched Pierce's nerves. First, he resurrected Captain America, Steve Rogers, and then asked Steve to recruit the Splinter, Brock Rumlow. He even established a separate Avengers alliance that is not under the jurisdiction of S.H.I.E.L.D. Isn't this Sime art? Can it be made more obvious? Since Nick Fury has already made a move, Pierce naturally cannot sit and wait for death. Therefore, it has become an urgent matter to incorporate the Electro Warriors into S.H.I.E.L.D. as soon as possible in a reasonable and legal manner. Mjolnir in front of him is undoubtedly a godsend for Pierce and Sitwell. Don't you have Splinter, Captain America, Black Widow, and Hawkeye? There are only 4 of them, but I have 22 of them including Marfa and Flash. What can you do to fight me? And what makes Pierce happy is not only that, but the Black Egg is crazy and actually fired the Yellow Spider Tobey Maguire. Look, we are working hard to strengthen ourselves and weaken the opponent, but what about the opponent? He cut off one arm before he even turned the table. In this way, as long as the Electric Warrior can successfully get into S.H.I.E.L.D., Alexander Pierce will be renamed No Pressure Pierce. Here, Sitwell has already started his own planning and layout. And what about Marfa on the other side? Coming out of the 7th floor of the Zuma Temple, Marfa's level has successfully reached level 36. Looking at the dark door in front of him, Marfa's heart was surging. He will face the Zuma leader so soon. Thinking back to when I was playing the real Legend, I wanted to be qualified to face the Zuma leader, which would take at least half a year, or even more than a year. But what about me? Since I came to the Marvel world, how long have I really entered the legendary world? If it weren't for the skill enhancement template and the bald Kang made by Tony Stark, it would be a miracle for Marfa to be level 28 now. Thinking back to when Natalia's chaos magic invaded my body, I hesitated whether to practice magic or choose the enhanced Taoist template. Thinking about it, how far-sighted the decision was at that time. If I choose to practice magic, the early equipment cannot take into account both Taoist and magic attributes, and it is even more difficult to get 2 sets of equipment. What's more, practicing magic is undoubtedly just a few more means of attack. Maybe it will be more efficient when killing monsters and easier when hunting treasures. But in terms of strength, it is too stretched. Zuma Cult Master. Here I come. Raising the chainsaw in his hand, Marfa habitually kicked Little Red's butt again and kicked it directly into the Zuma Cult Master's house. Zuma Cult Master, one of the 3 great cult masters under the Red Moon Demon in the Legend of Mir game. Unlike the Woma Cult Master that Marfa had met before, Zuma Cult Master was originally a half-orc. However, after being corrupted and eroded by the power of the Red Moon Demon, the original half-orc became a terrifying existence for the indigenous people of Marfa continent. The Zuma Cult Master's house is located at the bottom of the Zuma Temple. The area is not very large, about 20 meters long and 20 meters wide. A few sparse monsters are hiding in the corners and trembling because of the power of Zuma Cult Master. In the center of the Zuma Cult Master's house is a stone pillar, and above the pillar, a statue of Zuma Cult Master stands on it. When Marfa first came here, the monsters in the house were cleaned up by the players. Therefore, when Marfa did not find any monsters after a round, he was a little disappointed. He thought that since he finally came here, he might as well take a few pictures to commemorate it. But he never expected that a stone statue would suddenly appear on the pillar. Marfa, who was unaware of the situation, was still taking various screenshots in the Zuma leader's house. Until, sure enough, the moment Marfa approached the stone pillar, the statue immediately came to life. Then a monster more than 4 meters tall jumped directly from the stone pillar. Roar. The roar sounded. That was the last words of the Zuma leader. The next second, boom. The high-pitched motor sound of the chainsaw also sounded. The Zuma leader clasped his hands together, and a fireball as big as a human head appeared in his palm. Immediately, He saw his figure rushing towards Marfa's position like a ghost. At this time, Xia Hong appeared. I saw its body suddenly expand and grow. Its hands lifted off the ground and turned into sharp claws. Its chest and abdomen bulged, and it also sprayed a mouthful of hot flames towards Zuma Cult Master. However, just one confrontation, Xia Hong's health bar suddenly dropped a lot. A level 1 beast only has 140 blood points, and it was almost reduced by half in one go. This really scared Marfa. Looking at his only 320 blood points, even with various defenses, he could only withstand less than 10 attacks from Zuma Cult Master at most. The most terrifying thing is that Zuma Cult Master's attack speed is like a cheat, and the fireballs on his hands are constantly dancing, almost bringing out phantoms. He took a long breath of the somewhat scorching air. Marfa saw the opportunity and pushed the chainsaw forward. Experience value plus 3000. Chapter 250, Rune Rubbing. Boring? If you ask Marfa this question now, he will definitely answer you without hesitation. It's boring as hell. Just like buying a single-player Legend private server on Teobeo, usually the customer service will remind you a few words and modify the attributes reasonably, otherwise you will find it boring. Nowadays, Marfa feels like this. With Bald Kayang in hand, it is almost equivalent to adjusting Marfa's attack power to the maximum. Looking at the entire Legend, there are really few monsters that can withstand Bald Kayang's damage output even for 1 second. In the words of the game, it is a supermodel. This kind of bug-like existence should not appear. It is no exaggeration to say that from the moment there are chainsaws and M134 rapid-fire machine guns, the so-called real Legend is really worse than those fake Legends. But if you ask Marfa again, is it fragrant? Marfa's answer must be it's really fragrant. What a joke. Look at what kind of people Marfa meets outside. The goddess of death, Hela, that is an existence that can suppress Hulk. Thor, the god of thunder, is still a loser now, but there is no doubt that he has the blood of Odin in his body. And there is also the king of the gods, Odin. If Marfa still uses the soul fire symbol to kill monsters one by one in the face of these terrifying existences that can only be described as perverted, then I am afraid that when Avengers 4 is finished, Marfa will not be able to fight Thor. Don't forget that Marfa came to the MCU with a mission. If he can't successfully complete the plundering mission of the world consciousness of the Legend of Mir 2 because of his weak strength, what's the point of doing all this? It is precisely because of this that, knowing that Marfa is cheating, the world consciousness also acquiesced with one eye, and even took the initiative to increase the refresh rate of monsters, so as to help Marfa quickly increase his strength. After all, the current Marfa and the world consciousness of the Legend of Mir 2 are in a relationship of prosperity and loss. Marfa wants to quickly enhance his strength through the legendary game so that he can better survive in the MCU, finally complete his mission, return to his original world, and resurrect his parents. And what about the world consciousness? What he wants is for Marfa to make trouble, so as to continuously absorb the will of the MCU world and finally successfully extend his life. The two have the same purpose and common interests, so it is naturally impossible for them to embarrass each other. Unless one day, Marfa betrays the legendary world, or the consciousness of the legendary world has a new agent. This kind of interdependent and common progress relationship will break. And now, this situation obviously did not happen. In the home of the Zuma leader, Marfa picked up a brand new robe and a ring from the body of the Zuma leader. Ghost suit, superb, durability. 26/30, defense. 4-7, magic defense. 3-3, attack. 0-3, +3, Taoism. 1 and 4, Taoism required. 27. Titan ring, durability. 4/5, Taoism. 2-6, Taoism required. 24. The clothes are good, but it's a pity that the ring is a little worse, not as good as the previous drop of the Zuma guard. But it's finally improved, better than nothing. The most important thing is that the Zuma leader can drop a lot of good things. Things like resurrection rings, dragon pattern swords, invisibility rings, can all be dropped from the Zuma leader. Of course, since it is easy to solo the Zuma temple, Marfa is not in a hurry. If it doesn't work once, just try it a second time. If it still doesn't work, you can try a third time, a fourth time. Anyway, this place will be renamed Marfa's house from now on. Character, Marfa. Occupation, Taoist. Level 36, defense. 9-20, magic defense. 7-22, attack. 12-39, magic. 0 and 1, Taoist. 15-49, physical value, blood. 320-320, magic value, blue. 369/369, skills, healing level 3, psychic combat technique max, poisoning max, soul fire talisman level 3, summon skeleton level 3, invisibility level 3, group invisibility level 3, ghost shield max, holy armor level 3, psychic revelation level 3, trapped spell level 3, group healing level 2, summon divine beast level 1, Kigan wave level 3, infinite key level 1, special skills, mirror space, cannot be upgraded, dual core transformation, 6/10, spider sense, cannot be upgraded, big swindle, cannot be upgraded, cancel summon, cannot be upgraded, light of temptation, cannot be upgraded, equipment, little widow's hint, 0/3, Wuji stick, top quality, ghost suit, men's, soul bracelet, top quality, three-eyed bracelet, top quality, Titan ring 1, Titan ring 1, top quality, DZI bead necklace, top quality, special rings, teleportation ring, not equipped, paralysis ring, not equipped, special pets, Riot, Hulk, Samuel Stern, Adam, Ivan Vanko, current remaining game time is 180 minutes. There is no doubt that the appearance of the ghost suit and the pair of Titan rings has greatly improved Marfa's strength. Especially the new skills, summoning beasts, Kigan waves and Wuji key. It has made Marfa's means more abundant. Of course, these are not the most important. What really makes Marfa concerned is the skill of the trapped spell. The level 3 trapped spell has reached the threshold of magic modification. And the skill is what Marfa relies on to escape from the trap. Exit the game world and return to the body. It seemed that Marfa had been fighting for days and nights in the game, but in the land of death, it was just a blink of an eye. Boy, how about it? Do you want to build a house here to live? I remember there is a flat piece of land not far ahead, which can be regarded as a feng shui treasure land. Ho ha ho ha. Hela said with an expression of watching the fun. Although Marfa and others could not escape, it meant that Hela could not escape from the imprisonment. But is it important? Anyway, they have been waiting for thousands of years. It doesn't seem so scary to wait for a few hundred more years and kill Odin. But Marfa did not accept his fate. He took out a stack of paper and a bottle of ink from his storage backpack. While applying the ink on the imprisonment chain that trapped Hela, he used the paper to copy the runes engraved on the chain. However, Hela was not happy with this. After all, a large part of those chains were tied to her body. This touch and the imprint inevitably lead to some unavoidable physical contact. Hey! Damn Majordian, what are you doing? Are you trying to blaspheme me? Oh hey! Don't touch my thigh. Damn, if your hand moves 1 centimeter forward. Bastard! I'm going to kill you. Feeling the strange feeling coming from her sensitive parts, Hela was really angry. She was the goddess of death, the leader of the undead army, and the eldest princess of the Aesir. When had she ever suffered such grievances? The next second, Hela's whole body was straightened, and a metal particle the size of a date pit suddenly appeared in front of her. Then the metal particle shot towards Marfa like a bullet. Bang! The metal particle hit Marfa's head directly, but there was a sound of metal colliding. Just kidding, Marfa now has a full 20 points of defense, not to mention that the power is only equivalent to the metal particles of a sniper bullet. Even if you bring an RPG, if you want to hurt Marfa, you have to see if the equivalent is enough. Marfa did not mean to answer Hela. After all, whether things can be accomplished depends on the actual results. If the enhanced skills are different from what Marfa imagined, then it would be a joke for Hela to say it now. But Thor on the side didn't think so. Look, what is this Majordian doing? Is he flirting with his sister in front of him? Can he bear it? Thinking of this, Thor rushed forward without saying a word and wanted to teach Marfa a lesson, but after a few steps, his body hit an invisible wall. There is no doubt that this is the telekinesis of Marfa. With 49 points of Taoism attributes, the telekinesis strength generated is no less than Wanda before she learned the Dark God book. Even relying on telekinesis alone, Marfa has the confidence to compete with a Black Witch Agatha. With the current Thor? Damn it, let Hela go, or I, Thor Odinson, swear that I will make you pay the price. Thor roared. The difference is that Hela has obviously seen the reality. She can't resist, and Thor and Loki, One lost his power because of the seal, and the other was affected by the rules of the land of death, and they can't use their means. There is no doubt that among the 4 people present, Marfa is the absolute strongest at the moment. Not to mention making a move. Even if Marfa really goes into battle naked and goes straight to the point, Hela has no power to resist. Boy, you'd better remember this day. As long as I regain my freedom, I will kill you as soon as possible. No, you are just a Majordian. You will only live for 100 years at most. By then, I'm afraid your ashes will be cold. However, if you think that this will be fine, you underestimate me, the goddess of death. I will resurrect you as a dead spirit, and then grind your bones and scatter your ashes. Hela said fiercely. Marfa, okay. What a big hatred and resentment. I just want to rub some imprisonment runes as reinforcement materials, and you actually dragged it. You misunderstood, right? After saying that, Marfa immediately pinched Hela's big white legs. You want to grind my bones and scatter my ashes, right? Dipping his fingers in ink, Marfa drew a pig's head on each of Hela's exposed shoulders. Feeling Marfa's warm fingertips brushing across her shoulders, Hela's body trembled violently, and then her whole body softened like a deflated ball, and then she actually began to tremble slightly. The murderous intent that seemed to be real, burst out without reservation at this moment. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.